natural healing process without medications, without steroids, without surgery. It's just amazing.
Call QC Kinetics now for your free consultation.
Call QC Kinetics, 234-201-9299. That's 234-201-9299. Located near Youngstown in Warren, 234-201-9299.
All right. Welcome, everybody. This is the Bottom Line Business Show. I am Joe Danier, owner of Youngstown Computer and several other companies around our valley, big advocate for business. I want to encourage a lot of people listening, your neighbors, friends, that if you've got an idea rattling around in your brain, that you give it maybe a chance to be exercised in the real world. So set the show up to talk about some of the normal things that challenge business owners. And hopefully through talking about this stuff publicly, a lot of you could pick up on the verbiage and the concepts, maybe give you a little influence to kind of get started. Because there's a lot of genius, a lot of, talent that's sitting on the sidelines right now, only because either not having, the confidence to enter, or maybe just don't have enough of the insight on how this functions and works to get started. So I often think about this era versus previous eras. When I was a kid, I really got interested in the Industrial Revolution. I studied those empire builders from that era. And sometimes I think that business would have been easier back then. It's almost like we are so advanced and sophisticated that a lot of the problems that need solving are sort of above the normal pay grade, right? So there's a lot of opportunities to make money by filling in products and services, but the true innovators that shaped things seemed that normal people could get a start in the invention process, where now it's harder to get entered into there when you're an innovator, when you're trying to create something that didn't exist before. It's like today's business is more taking things that exist and finding new ways to wire them versus, big disruptive things that change the landscape. The people who are working on those things, like the social media and the tech and artificial intelligence and all of those technologies, aren't some guy hammering away in his laboratory in his backyard. They're big, companies that can afford to hire engineers and talent. And so I always felt like I needed to be making something, changing something, innovating somewhere. And the problem with setting that as the standard for business is, and I might not ever, create a product or invent something that wasn't there before, even though I want to, and I know that it's on my radar to do something like that. My flavor of business is I sniff out opportunities and weaknesses in what is. I am not a complainer, right? I will not bitch and moan about how I wish things to be different. If I truly have the conviction that I think something should be different, then I could go out there. I'm free to go out there and prove it in the marketplace and just do it. I think a lot of us get super comfortable and just demanding that somebody else solves all of our problems. And it takes that spirit out of what it is to be a human, which is we're built for those problems. And sometimes we're solving those problems. So, it's in our DNA. We are survivalists. We are, built to pursue our self-interest, and making a sign and being outraged about stuff. It seems like the extent of our ability, and it's so not. We know we can go tackle it. So everything, I'll take some of the common gripes here. That you think XYZ companies should do X, right? You think they should do it. So whether or not it's so a social advocacy for you think people should make more money. Well, there is nothing on the planet that stops you from going and doing that thing and paying that rate, right? So if you think everybody who flips hamburgers should be $40 an hour, go for it. There's not anyone going to keep you out of the marketplace to prove that concept. And I guarantee you, if you hit a successful model, there will be other people to follow you. And that's the real way to advocate your way out of it, is the successes of something. Prove it is really what it comes down to. And so many of our so much of our passion is put into being outraged. And then it's so unfulfilling to be so mad about something and then nobody will act on your outrage. That's just, it's a little disheartening. So, but you yourself can go do it, and you yourself can go become that change that you want to see. And, when I talk to kids, kids have it figured out more than adults. Adults are kind of broken in a couple ways because they've already decided and they already make excuses and they've already got themselves sort of like squashed down as much as you can. Where kids, they've got hope that they can. They've had enough people around them. They have enough experiences around them that they see some possibilities out ahead of them, and they're ready to go tackle things. They're more restrained, and they wish they could go do these things, and they got the handcuffs of just not being able to make their decisions. But when they turn 18 and when they start making their own money and then they can make their own decisions, they're ready to tackle it. So that when we're on fire like that is when we should be feeding. We shouldn't be squashing deeper and wrangling those things out. So if you want to go into parents are real bad for this about trying to use practical good sense as a way to muzzle these far-fetched ideas. Where would you rather your kid go be an engineer or a musician? Well, I'm going to go with engineer because engineer is more stable, higher demand. It's more likely that you're going to make more money. Where a musician is, some people make it, some people struggle their whole lives. So if you're a parent, you want to pick out the most practical version of that, you're going to guide towards the safe. Well, I'm the opposite, where it's all about expressing my passions and waking up and not feeling, terrible about the day that I'm about to hit. I want to feel good every day, which means that my life has to be a laboratory of things that I'm going to try, which means I'm going to fail sometimes. It means I'm going to have some successes. But if it's my laboratory, then I get excited and I want to go tackle the things that I need to go create. And I want every day of my life to be that way. And so that as a dad and, as a mentor to other people, it is much more important that you love what you do than you make a bunch of money doing it. We can always figure out how to monetize things, but true love and passion for what you do. Think about how many drones are going throughout their day, just hating their existence, and they're doing it for the paycheck because they've got bills to pay. I mean, you're sacrificing, multiple decades of your life towards something. You might as well like what you're doing and feeling passion. And remember, if you're doing something that matters and you're following your passion, you're making the world a better place. You're not a cog in a wheel, a safe cog in a wheel. You're someone who could be making a difference and serving the community a different way and providing a product that wasn't being served before. And then, forcing other companies to serve the same products. Because here's the thing. Business is about customers. It's about serving a customer. And I think what's lost sometimes in the business world is that, when I meet with someone who's got a great idea for a product, they just know in their heart that it will sell, but 99% of all of their effort has been into making this thing exist, right? And my products are always the other way. I'm a very, very quiet observer. When you see me in public and I am looking around, I am gathering information. And so I am super interested in collecting data on groups of people and individuals. So when I'm collecting that data, I'm trying to see how I can help people. And when I hear a complaint about how, your food took too long, my engineering brain kicks in. Or when traffic was bad, my engineering brain kicks in. Or something was too expensive, my engineering brain kicks in. And, there's what's nice about the marketplace is that it's not single dimensional. There is a spectrum of demand where you're not serving a customer, right? Because you do not want all customers to demand the same things. You want to cater to the customers that you have access to and you want to. So for instance, you have a watch, right? Now you could buy a Timex or you could buy a Rolex. Now a Rolex costs more and it's a watch, and a Timex is also a watch. If you want to spend $50 versus $50,000, that's the difference. Now there are customers, there are people that want both. I'm not going to say that the Rolex people are wrong and we should all be Timex, or I'm not going to say the Timex people are wrong and we should be all Rolex. I think there's everything at the ends of the spectrum and everything in between, because everybody wants to be served differently. So if there's not somebody selling Rolexes, if you don't have a premium brand in a different marketplace and you think there should be, go make a premium brand. If there isn't a low end brand, if there isn't a fast brand, if there isn't a slow brand, there's parts of me. I don't like being around thick densities of people. So if the name of the game is you have to get volume to go through an amusement park, or volume to go through a movie theater, or volume to do something, lots of ticket sales, right? You're going to lose me because that density is going to make it less appealing for me. Now, if you had a day where it was a super expensive ticket and you promised me that there would be nobody else in the theater, that's the day that I might show up. It's going to cost me more, but what I'm not buying is I'm not buying the movie. I'm buying the lack of other people at the theater. 330-729-9977. You can text me at 333-1570. I want to welcome those over on Facebook and YouTube and Twitter. Everybody who's joining us over on social media, you can comment, and I'll take a look at those comments every once in a while. I'll read them on there if need be. And then if you want to text me, I'll do that as well. These business shows carry whatever dimension the audience would like. So if you're brand new at it, you don't even know what you don't know, then ask the questions that are on the very early entry portion of this. The 15-year-old kids that I meet with at schools, they want to know how to get started. Got an idea, I want to get started. Some of them don't even have the idea yet, but they know that they want to get started, but they don't know how. So that's that is on the docket. And it is the same question from those 15-year-olds every single time. I want to make a bunch of money. I'm willing to sacrifice. I'm willing to work hard. I'm willing to, do whatever. I want to make a bunch of money. How do I do that? And, I spend coaching new businesses months of having that conversation. So to do the elevator pitch of how to do business, it's a beginning of a process. It's warming up that you don't know everything, and you're going to have to collect everything that you do need, and you're going to have to make an inventory sheet of what you don't have, and a grocery list of things that you do need to go get in the marketplace. The more complete of a person you could be, the more information you fill into that plan. So the first 5 years of me being in business, where I did a little bit of business, but I did mostly reading and tapping into message boards and talking to people who were in industries that would talk to me. I was gathering my intelligence so that I could actually practice here. And where do you get business intelligence? I will tell you, traditional schooling does not create entrepreneurs. It really does not. An entrepreneur is its own thing. And where you can use some of the studies that academia hands you, it's its own pursuit, and it's more artist than it is. I don't know. 330-729-9977. Let's go to George. George, you're on the Bottom Line Business Show. How can I help you?
Yes, I noticed on the news there's a church in Struthers that's going to close. The Greater Methodist Association decided, it's time to close it. I think maybe they only have 10 or 20 people in the church and all this, So I started to think, could they turn that church into something else? Like, it's got a beautiful kitchen in there. They could turn it into, sort of like a restaurant, or there's plenty of space in there. They could turn it into a thrift store. So there's something to think about,
Yeah. What would you like to see go in there?
Stuff like that maybe would be interesting, And the possibilities are probably endless, what you could do with an old church. See, I guess everyone thinks if it's not going to be a church, it'll just be nothing, but
Right.
Something to think about. Okay. Thanks.
All right. Thank you, George. Appreciate you being out there. Appreciate you checking in. And that is one thing. Like, remember, we're data collectors. And so when we look around at the marketplace, not only can you observe things that's happening, you can make predictions about what will happen. So if, part of our culture was a very thick religious base, you'd have a lot of churches. If you start to see that the religious sects start to wane and membership start to decline, in the future you're going to have buildings that don't have purpose, right? They don't have people because there's not enough people to support a church. And so as those churches consolidate, there's going to be buildings that are going to go into disrepair unless somebody figures out how to use them. Now, there was a church that over in Youngstown, I believe they put a brewery in. It was perfect, wide open space. It was, block walls. It had great architecture, and they made, a brewery out of it. So as George was saying, there are probably plenty of things that can make use of a building that's already constructed rather than, doing building. Because I'm telling you that I love that era of architecture, and especially churches. They didn't do it on the cheap. They really did it right. And so I've seen also the other way around, where there's been churches that sit vacant for long enough for them to fall in complete disrepair, and then they're worth nothing. I think there was one over in North Lima. But I get text message. Our friends over the MLO Bros from Poland, they saw that church go up for sale, and we do those ghost hunts. And so setting up a sacrilegious, I'm going to get struck by lightning for this, but setting up a haunted church was something that was thrown out there, and probably in jest, but still, lots of people, when they see these things, their gears start going and thinking of ideas where they can make use of a resource that may be hard to place. There aren't many people who are like, hey, if a church would just become available, that would be the make or break for me. So 330-729-9977. You can text me at 333-1570. You're listening to the Bottom Line Business Show on 570 WKBN. I'll be back.
The podcast Let's Talk About Myths, Baby, retells stories from Greek and Roman mythology, from gods and goddesses to heroes and monsters. Explore the weird and often awful things the ancient deities were up to.
When it comes to Melanoi,
people want to take this idea of the romance of Hades and Persephone to a happy ever after.
Listen to Let's Talk About Myths, Baby, on the iHeartRadio app or wherever you get your podcasts.
Are your investments going nowhere? Here's a tip that always pays big dividends. Invest in yourself, your talent, your smarts, your skills. Maybe it's time to make that investment and start a career in IT or upskill to boost your current career. At My Computer Career, you can bank on us. We'll help you get the right skills and the right certifications to start or advance your IT career. IT keeps growing, so go with the growth at My Computer Career. The right training, the right timing, the right career. Invest in you at mycomputercareer.edu. Start now.
Thinking out loud, maybe we found love.
Ed Sheeran sang on the witness stand yesterday, defending himself in a copyright infringement trial. He's been accused of copying parts of Marvin Gaye's 1973 hit, Let's Get It On, for his 2014 ballad, Thinking Out Loud. Testifying in his own defense, the 32-year-old did his thing on the witness stand in front of a packed Manhattan courtroom to demonstrate his songwriting process. He also played some chords on his acoustic guitar, showing how his song differed from the Marvin Gaye track. Sheeran is expected to testify again when the trial resumes on Monday. Talk show host Jerry Springer has died at age 79. He attended Forest Hills High School in Queens, New York, and years later became mayor of Cincinnati in 1977. The Jerry Springer Show aired in syndication for 27 years from 1991 to 2018. It was taped in Stamford, Connecticut. Reports say Springer was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer a few months back and took a turn for the worse this week. And a reality TV star who was wanted for allegedly assaulting his brother in Pennsylvania has turned himself in. An arrest warrant had been issued Monday for Brandon Bam Margera. His brother told authorities Bam punched him in the face several times during a fight at their home. Well, the 43-year-old star of several MTV shows now faces charges of simple assault, harassment, and 4 counts of making terroristic threats. That's entertainment. Steve Greenfield, NBC News Radio.
All right. Welcome back, everybody. This is the Bottom Line Business Show, a show to help you get started in business and give you a space to ask your questions if you are getting started. Sometimes it gets you need some motivation. I mean, if I'm telling you, a lot of people think that it's about having enough money or having the best idea. And in all of my experience, it's about persistence, staying in the game. So the psychological battle to just stay in there and keep churning and keep pushing and keep learning. That's the key. And, even the most, you could just pick any business. I have, these small micro businesses, and you would think that, okay, well, that's a $10,000 idea. And you watch these people put together 6 figures. And then, you have these brand new inventions that are going to revolutionize, and they put together, 5 figures. And figuring it out is that it's all about the drive, right? And the desire to get your idea to, take root. Going to answer some questions here real quick. Let's see. I need advice. A customer ordered something from me a year ago, and they ask for a warranty return. It's a high dollar product that we sell, and I don't offer a warranty for a year. This customer says they're going to challenge it and take me to court over it. What should I do? All right. So in every industry, there are liabilities. Okay. And when you're looking to sell something or do something, you have to put that on the radar as a possibility. And a portion of what you do pricing wise is to cover yourself from those liabilities. So if, for instance, you're selling a car, right? And you go out to the marketplace and you see that 10% of customers, after they purchase the car, they want to return it and they don't want it anymore. So you put in your, you put in all your contracts that you got 30 days to do this, or maybe you don't do it at all, but there's always going to be one that does. And so you're like, okay, if this happens, then here's my protocol. And if this happens, here's my protocol. But if you get to the third or fourth thing that could happen, and if you're like, well, I'll just hope that never happens, well, you're going to get caught, flat-footed. And so most of my protocols don't really have my feelings involved. They're mostly mathematical protocols. So that if someone returns something and it's out of the warranty and they're really upset about it and they're willing to take you to court over it, is it worth it to you to go to court over them giving this back to you? Now, if it's going to break your company, if we're talking like $100,000 product that you can't return, and if you had to take it back, it would ruin you, then the pursuit might be worthwhile. But if we're talking about a couple $100s or a couple thousands, it's almost never worthwhile to pursue those kind of things. And honestly, it shouldn't be your first choice. There are 100 other things you could do to try to, bring it back to a positive experience. You're still in the business of serving people. And if someone is not happy with your product, your objective is not to get people to buy things they don't want, right? Your job is to qualify them so that when they leave, they're happy with it. So I would two parts of this. One, I would work harder to diffuse the situation and make it right by the customer. And that includes giving some money back or making some repairs or trying to solve the problem they have, right? And trying to diffuse it going to court. And number 2 would be sort of like self-evaluatory. Self-evaluation, where you want to figure out what went wrong and is there something you can do in the future to not let that happen again. And it means taking responsibility for things that aren't your fault. So I'll give you an example. And this is a stupid example I use with every one of my employees, everyone that I do business with. And let's just say something happens, like you get a cold. Now, my first question is to accuse you that you didn't do enough not to get a cold. What could you have done more? So did you do your vitamins? Did you eat healthy? Did you exercise? Did you get enough sleep? There are 50 things that you could have done to not get a cold. How many of the things did you do? And we're going to figure out if you say, I don't want to get a cold. Well, I'm going to tell you, pick the 50 things you said you didn't do before and do all of those things. And you've self-solved that problem. So when you reverse engineer, when things go south, you're doing just that. You're not there to defend against that there's nothing you could do about it, right? Somebody bought something from you and now they want to give it back and want their money back. You can make up all of the hypotheticals you want, but the deal is that's not how it's supposed to work. You either didn't qualify, you either didn't filter out, you didn't do something. And if you list out all of the things that you could do to qualify a customer so they will be happy when they leave, show me which ones that you didn't do. And if you don't want people to return product, do all of those things. And that's where there's a lot of ego that comes with business. It's a very very lonely pursuit. It's a very you versus you pursuit. And so sometimes it's hard to admit that you had some elements of failure into when some things go south, but you got to take responsibility for those things. 330-729-9977. Text me at 333-1570. You're listening to the Bottom Line Business Show on 570 WKBN. I'll be back.
Do you find yourself stuck in a timeshare? Get the real facts about the timeshare industry and your options for cancellation. Chuck McDowell, founder of Wesley Financial Group, has put together a free information guide that reveals the secrets the timeshare industry doesn't want you to know, including the 5 ways to get rid of your timeshare. Call now and get this timeshare cancellation guide absolutely free.
Call 800-311-9595. 800-311-9595. 800-311-9595.
It's the Guardians and Red Sox from Fenway Park this afternoon at 4:10. Airtime for Guardians warm-up, 3:35.
I think it's time. It's time. Time to stay informed.
The time to act.
Stay connected.
The clock.
Check in 3, 4. The clock is ticking 5 times.
Time is now up.
A day. On 570 WKBN.
Police in Warren are investigating after a shooting that happened Wednesday. Reports say a 24-year-old man was shot in the area of Bell Street. There's no word on his condition. 65-year-old John Arsufi has been sentenced to 3 years in prison after being convicted of several animal cruelty charges. He was arrested back in March of 2021. The charges follow an investigation of a complaint about the condition of animals in his care. 40-year-old Matthew Severs faces charges including 7 counts of illegal use of a minor person in nudity-oriented material or performance. His bond was set at $50,000. He's due back in court next month. Documents say the incidents happened between January 2019 to November of 2021. 33-year-old Amanda Jo Bunner of Salem has been charged in the April 2016 death of her 2-year-old son in Akron. Her bail was set at $1 million. The incident happened in the 300 block of Palm Avenue in Akron. 61-year-old Palvo Santiago faces charges of cruelty to companion animals. It comes after an investigation by Camel Police, where officers found a dog, 64 pigeons, 20 chickens and roosters, and 6 rabbits. And the Village of Lisbon has decided to table a decision on joining a class action lawsuit against Norfolk Southern indefinitely until council members receive more information. From the Columbiana Cadillac Buick Chevrolet Newsroom, drivecolumbiana.com, I'm Dave Price.
We're a country of so many voices, yet some still struggle to be heard. Let your voice be heard. News Radio 570, WKBN.
Weather brought to you by Mazza Heating and Cooling and Bryant, keeping you comfortable year-round.
Mostly cloudy skies for your Saturday afternoon. You may see a peak of sun at times, high temperatures in the low 60s. A chance for rain showers enters tonight with low temperatures in the mid to upper 40s. That chance for rain showers sticks around to wrap up the weekend as highs reach the upper 50s on Sunday. With your Storm Team 27 weather forecast, I'm meteorologist Kyle Alexander.
Current temp 55.
You know, the thing about all things MyPillow products, they just work. I fall asleep faster, I stay asleep longer, and guess what? Mike Lindell, MyPillow, they have just made their pillow, MyPillow, the original, that much better with MyPillow 2.0. The MyPillow 2.0 has the patented adjustable fill of the original MyPillow, but it now has brand new exclusive fabric that is made with temperature regulating thread. The MyPillow 2.0 is the softest, smoothest, and coolest pillow you're ever going to own. You're going to love it. When you go to MyPillow.com, click on the Sean Hannity Square, and if you buy one MyPillow 2.0, you get another one absolutely free. The MyPillow 2.0 is made with the temperature regulating technology, 100% made in the U.S. The pillow comes with a 10-year warranty and a 60-day unconditional money-back guarantee. You can get it by calling 800-919-6090. Use the promo code Hannity, or simply go to MyPillow.com, click on the Sean Hannity Square, buy one, get one free, the all-new MyPillow 2.0.
A drug widely used to treat type 2 diabetes is on track to be approved for weight loss. Eli Lilly, the company that makes Mounjaro, says FDA approval could come by the end of the year. Studies have shown that obese people without diabetes who are on this drug have experienced weight loss as high as 21%. A new report says some popular weight loss diets may increase the risk of heart disease. Experts with the American Heart Association have developed a ranking of the top 10 diets in the U.S., scoring them on how well they follow guidelines for heart health. The new list gives the lowest scores to the paleo diet and the ketogenic diet for their reliance on animal fats. The highest ratings go to the DASH and Mediterranean diets, which rely on veggies, whole grains, and low-fat dairy. Fish and vegetarian diets also scored high for heart health. Health update, Sarah Lee.
All right, welcome back, everybody. This is the Bottom Line Business Show. I am Joe Danier, your advocate for business here in the Valley. Want to recruit more people to give entrepreneurship a shot and jump on board, start to exercise some of those ideas in the marketplace. Here is a quote from our buddy Elon Musk. Everyone eats the same food, uses the same restrooms, no executive chef or ivory tower stuff. There shouldn't be this workers versus management two-class system. Everyone is a worker. And I do see this in, lots of different industries where, tenure and the length of time you've been employed creates this hierarchical structure where, it means something. Experience is a component of your total merit. But if we're the smartest person in the job is the person that should be doing the job. It should not be the person giving special treatment because of the number of years served. And so, we do see this, and there's always been a fear. I mean, this has even occurred to me a couple times where if I make an appointment, give someone an upgrade in their duties or their pay rate, and I leapfrog someone, am I going to alienate them? Am I going to figure out, I'm going to make someone feel bad that wasn't them? And so long that all of my, all of those advancements are mathematically based, and I can show the work to find out that it wasn't a person that I picked, it was the competency that I selected, then I've given, a reasonable incentive to become better, smarter, and faster. And all of my products and services get better because it's all merit all the time. And so hiring someone smarter than me is the objective. And having lots of people who are really intelligent and better than the previous lot is the goal. And so, kind of dividing that out and not making people feel special for the wrong reasons. I want people to feel special when they're successful and they're really good at their job. And I want to give incentive for people to always try harder to get even better. And so, yeah, I really like that quote when I read it this morning. So 330-729-9977. You can text me at 333-1570, and I'll read those text messages and then welcome those over on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. Welcome to the program here on 570 WKBN. Let's see. How do I know if my social media marketing is working? I spend boosted posts and don't feel like you're getting a return on the money that I'm spending. That's a good question. And, there were a lot of very pro marketing people for the longest time that said Facebook and Twitter were the cheapest and most effective ways of doing marketing. So you had a bunch of people thinking that that's the golden ticket. You throw anything out there on social media and all of a sudden you get a great, big return on it. Well, lots of people spend a lot of money on advertising that doesn't work because they're doing it in the blind. They're missing what they're supposed to do. Think of the shotgun where you blast out a message to hundreds of thousands of people and on sheer volume expect to get some kind of return on that money, right? Well, social media is great because you can go completely after your market, who you're going after, their interests, their demographics, their age, where they live. And if you're not doing that, then a lot of people miss that because they're just advertising to people that will never be their customers. They go too broad, and it's changing your focus that when you're using something, you think internet, you think millions of viewers. So you have to be overly broad because you don't, you don't want to miss anybody. But I would rather pick out one specific customer type with one set of interests in one separate, very specific demographic and write a marketing message specifically for them, even if it only applies to 1,000 people. And I'm actually willing to pay more per click or per exposure to someone who is my perfect demographic rather than the other way around. And so I can run 10 of those boosted posts to 1,000 people and get super specific on my messaging for each one of those. So long response would the marketing that you're doing is so overly broad that it'd be hard to meter out any interest you're getting. And you're probably just kind of like sinking into the backdrop where a majority of the money you're spending is being wasted on people who are not your buyers. And that's why you're not noticing it, because it's just overly generalized and broad. Social media does work really well when you're doing it right. And it's, we've had to invent methods so that we can tell when we get a lead or an order specifically from our social media. We can tell, and that gives us if we spend $1,000 running an ad over the course of 2 months and we make $40,000, that's an ad buy that I would buy on a regular basis. That was a return. Now, if I spent $100 and I got, one lead and they spent $50, that might be one doesn't have a high enough ratio to run a second time. And so, like, marketing is not a Hail Mary. Marketing is a series of a lot of 5-yard runs, and you get to feel out the market depending on what you bounced off of. And you use trends, and you use think about it this way. You and your competition are probably doing the same stuff, which means that on a week-to-week basis, they're changing, and they might be more successful than you, which means that you might be less successful because they picked better targeting or were willing to spend more money. So you have to try and do different things, because sometimes the most intuitive things are not the things that are going to be most effective. I'll give you an example. We went after a keyword that was a misspelling one time, and it was crazy because I thought nobody's gonna, we're not gonna hit the misspellings, and I forget what it was. Maybe it had something to do with virus cleanups or something like that. And we took a misspelling of a certain virus, and if someone was typing it in if someone was typing into Google to research it or find a problem with it, I want them to find us. And we used the misspelling, and we got one of the biggest returns. I think we got like 4,400 requests in a week. And that wasn't sales, but it was requests, and it was just, it was insane. But anyway, thank you for that question. I went a little too long on it, but thank you. 330-729-9977. You can text me at 333-1570. Joe, what banks would you use in our area? I like local banks. And, just like most of you, it's such a pain in the butt when a bank gets purchased. And so I like long track record banks. Now, one of the problems is that I dealt with home savings for a really long time. And that's one of those ones where I thought would always be here and, never get bought and whatever. And they're just I think they turned into to Premier. But my favorites, my favorite is Farmers Bank right now. We have a lot of our accounts with them. They're solid. They pick up their phone. They're easy to deal with. They have a lot of branches in the area. I also know a lot of people at Huntington, and I haven't heard any complaints about doing it then. But keeping it local, I'd prefer you with a local bank rather than a national chain. Even a credit union would be good to keep that. And I don't know if this is a concern because of the banking problems that are happening on the West Coast. Those don't even enter in to a risk category as far as I'm concerned. But again, that's my response. Pick a local bank. Farmers is probably my favorite right now. So thank you for that question. Let's see. Should I sell locally or should I sell nationally? Good question. And working with some people who sell, antiques or here's my response. So a lot of times you can get more value, a little bit more money from selling to a national, because some of the products just aren't available in all parts of the country. And so you can get a premium because it's harder to get there. Locally, if it's available with you and there's 19 other sellers, there's a lot of competition for it and you lose some of the value, but you have more buyers. So distribution's easier on a local sale than shipping it off. But if you can get that premium, I would simply say both. I would take a couple of your products and I would figure out if there's a market for them, on eBay, on Etsy, selling on Amazon, any other methods of sale, or just selling direct, putting it like a square shopping cart together and put a couple of your products there. You do have to take into consideration that having a shipping department, has some overhead. And so you got to consider that if you had to ship 10 items a week, that's going to take somebody's time, maybe more so than, selling in the front of the shop. But we need we need lots more of you to have a public presence. Brick and mortar is what wins the day. We need more of that and not less. So that would be my recommendation, is to do both. But I would drill resources into whichever is making you more margin. So if your online sales is making you 10 times what you're selling locally, make the shipping department larger and make the retail part smaller, and make it proportional to what it could provide. And I don't know the product you're selling, but you also have, international that you can court and open it up even internationally. And so, yeah, that's again, good question, and it comes up quite a bit. All right. So starting a company, should I incorporate or run as a sole proprietorship? I always defer to either tax or legal professionals when this question comes up, because sometimes some of you will need certain protections that an LLC or a corporation can provide. I mean, the primary function of incorporating is to separate you as the individual from your company or your enterprise. So if your company or enterprise, it has a lot of threat, there's a lot of risk that goes along with it that could threaten personal assets, then you might need those protections, just so what you've accumulated on the personal side doesn't become, at risk for your practice. If you've got nothing, you don't own a house, you don't have assets, then you have less to protect with having that deal. So think about it this way. The reason that LLCs and the incorporation exercise started is that, or the first example that I read about was when they would take voyages, where they would explore cross oceans and do trade in other continents. It was a risky endeavor. A lot of things went wrong. Not every ship made it. Lots of loss happened. All right. So to encourage those trips to be made, you could protect and put each one of those voyages in its own risk container. All right. So if you had a trading company that had 10 vessels, you could put each one of those 10 vessels or each trip in its own corporation. And if there was a loss, the only thing that was at risk was everything inside of that corporation. It wouldn't sue or, risk the other ships. And that would encourage more of that exploration. So think about risk containers is that. So if you can picture your life, and if you can think of there's should be a risk container protecting other objectives, other asset buckets, then it might be for you. But first and foremost, I would always go after a reliable accountant or attorney. Ask that same question, someone who knows sort of your your history and some of your financial profile, and you'll get a better answer than that. So 330-729-9977. This text message, it's long, so let me read this here. Joe, I have an amazing small business doing things years ahead of the local competition. The problem is I'm the worst business owner on the planet. I'm just horrible, but I'm amazing at the job. When I started out, I talked to SCORE and they were helpful to get me going. In more recent years, the counselors' numbers have dwindled locally and are not able to help. Is there any local groups or any contact you can share with someone to talk about where I need to go, or how to do it? Okay. I mean, you can come talk to me. It's one of those things where I set aside some time just about every week to work with businesses that might be struggling and see if there's some cooperations or some investments or just some advice that I can give. I'm with you. I hit SCORE right off the get-go, and there doesn't seem to be a lot of those, executives willing to just take those meetings on. There's a bunch of business development groups that you can join into and talk to other The Roundtable 12 was one of them. Rama was on the show a couple weeks back. But I want to know more about why you think that you are just horrible. I mean, I know that, entrepreneurs are very self-reflective and they're self-critical. But it sounds like that you've got, I'm not saying I know your situation, but it sounds like you're a little brutal on yourself. So, give my office a call, 330-259-7278. Leave me a message that you want to meet up, and then you can claim one of my spots on, I believe Wednesdays is where we're doing it. And you can fill me in and let me know if there's anything I could do to help. Again, it's a very single player oriented job. And so if there's parts of your personality that are missing, you're going to have to fill in those parts of your personality. So for instance, I'm a very logical thinker. And so I talk numbers and engineering, and I talk things that are very logical and less creative. So I'm about 80% logical, 20% creative. And so there's some people who are a lot creative that my numbers make them uncomfortable. So I insulate myself from being around people who I'm going to make feel uncomfortable because I want to talk about data and numbers and spreadsheets and whatever. And so you put the two of us in a room, and then I would feel the same way. I'm a terrible person. I made this person. Why can't I be better? Why can't I be more creative? But it's allocating myself so that I'm lining up with people that I'm most like. So thank you for that text message. Appreciate it. You're listening to the Bottom Line Business Show on 570 WKBN. I'll be back.
iHeartRadio. Only iHeartRadio gives you access to all of your favorite radio stations.
It's Elliot in the morning. Rod Ryan Show. Check it in. It's the Woody Show.
All of the once-in-a-lifetime events.
The 2023 iHeartRadio Music Awards.
All of the best free curated playlists.
All the rock for all the people.
All of the great podcasts for every interest.
This is Freddie Prinze Jr. from the Wrestling with Freddie podcast.
All of the mind-blowing contests.
$20,000.
Awesome. All of your favorite superstars.
This is Pete from Fall Out Boy.
Best of all, it doesn't cost a thing. Download the absolutely free iHeartRadio app now.
Hey guys, did you know there's a generic form of Viagra that works just the same, but is 95% cheaper? Just go to 4hims.com/joy. Through Hims, you'll get a free medical consultation, discreet shipping if prescribed, and the process is 100% online. To start your free online visit, go to 4hims.com/joy. That's FORHIMS.com/JOY.
Prescriptions require an online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if appropriate. Restrictions apply. See website for details and important safety information. Subscription required. Price varies based on product and subscription plan.
All right, welcome back, everybody. This is the Bottom Line Business Show. This text message says, I have a credit score that is sub 700 and I need access to a couple $1,000s every once in a while. How do I get a micro loan with a low credit score? Good question. And, I don't like business debt. And especially if there's a startup involved, somebody that's maybe not proven out. And I think that debt kind of complicates some of the math that goes behind, cash flow and just creates a little bit more risk. I've seen people that start a business, get a $100,000 loan, and then they decide they don't want to do the business anymore, and they sell the business, and it's not enough to cover the loan, and now they're stuck with this payment on something they're not even doing anymore. And I just don't like seeing that happen. Now, if you need a couple $1,000s as a short-term loan, so for instance, you're buying a product that's going to sell within the next 30 days, you buy it, you hold it, you sell it, you invoice it, and then it comes in. Now that sounds like a credit card transaction. So if you can just maybe do, like American Express, we use exclusively on most of our purchasing American Express because we only need 30 days from the time that we buy something that it's going to come in on an invoice. So it's perfect. And so we just, put it on the credit card, pay it off within 30 days. Everything's good. I don't want it to live on credit for more than that 30 days. So that extra pressure to get it off of there is meaningful. Because once you start thinking that you can spend beyond what's in your checking account, you will chasing opportunities and whatnot. And I don't want you to get stuck in that pursuit. It's not good business. So where do you go to get microloans? I would probably get a credit card in your name with a 700 score or 680 score, something like that. There should still be credit cards that are available to you, and might be high interest rate, but it doesn't matter. Interest rate is not going to matter because you're only putting it on short term. And so, yeah, I would use the credit card as a first option though. I would develop my own bank. I would put cash aside. And when I need to take a loan, I take a loan from myself. And, if my margins are good and I'm selling well, I should have no problem taking 10% or 5% of sales and sticking it away in the bank of Joe. And then when I get into opportunities, they're coming out of my own cash rather than, on credit. Most companies should be able to do that over a short term. You might have to, sort of like short circuit the temptation to do something right now and prepare your finances so that you can hit the next one. So like even now, like when the stock market goes down and I'm not in a position where I have a bunch of cash to invest, I feel like I missed the boat. And then when I do have cash, then sometimes I want to make an investment, but we're at a 30-year high and I don't want to buy now. So sometimes my timing is off. But if you put that $4,000 or $5,000 away, then when those opportunities hit, that's what that cash was for all along. And you're going to feel better about making those purchases. If I had cash sitting aside and the crash in the stock market and I got to invest that money, it'd feel right because I took the responsibility of planning out that expenditure and also creating that asset so I could use that. So first choice, out of your own cash. Second choice, get a credit card that you're going to pay off in 30 days. Last choice, I mean, you could go after one of those, those loan companies, those high interest loan companies. I wouldn't do it though. I wouldn't. Anyway, stay away from it. 330-729-9977. You can text me at 333-1570. Joe, how do I develop leads to customers? I hate this question, and I'm sorry, I don't mean to pick on you, but I think marketing and some of the terminology that they use really hurt marketing and sales because they create this infrastructure of funnels and leads, and they've commoditized something that is very relational, right? It is not transactional. It's not like cold calling 700 people that you don't know and resulting in 4% sales, and those are your lead generations. Like that is not my flavor of business. What's better is you create leads by creating relationships and meeting people and talking to people and getting to know them. Business is about creating customers and talking to customers and understanding their needs. So a lead is generated as you talk to people, and some people aren't your customers, but you're going to have to talk to them anyway. So put yourself in lots of positions to meet lots of people and do a lot of talking and a lot of listening, and be on the lookout for ways to serve people. So leads generation is about people. And so that's, and I come with a little sass on that because I don't know. I think it's just ruining the marketing for everybody because it's, whenever you get in a sales cycle like we are right now, where you have companies that need to sell, and then the sales tactics go over the top, consumers get obliterated and psychologically damaged, so that when you have a legitimate seller that just wants to get to know, they're like got PTSD from being pitched to. And I know because I get pitched to all the time, and they get over the top and they just wear me out sometimes. All right, 330-729-9977. I'm going to take this break. I'm going to come back. We're going to have the computer show coming up after this. Again, that's 330-729-9977. Text me at 333-1570. Coming up next is the Youngstown Computer Show here on 570 WKBN. I'll be back.
From ABC News Tech Trends, America's lowest cost electric vehicle is no more. This week, General Motors announced it would be ending production of the Chevy Bolt. At around $26,000 before federal and state EV tax incentives, it's the country's cheapest electric car.
The Bolt was a lot more like an economy car. It was front-wheel drive. It looked kind of dowdy.
Freelance auto journalist Patrick George says despite the Bolt's diminutive stature, the car was well-liked among the automotive press, especially for that price.
There were people walking out the door, $20,000 to $25,000. And for that, you get a very practical car. It's very fun to drive, that uses no gasoline and can go for 260 miles.
GM says the Bolt will eventually be replaced by an electric Chevy Equinox, but George says that car is bigger and it's expected to be pricier too.
I think a lot gets lost when the focus just becomes on larger and more expensive vehicles.
With Tech Trends, I'm Mike Dubusky ABC News.
From the Columbiana Cadillac Buick Chevrolet Studios. Available everywhere with the iHeartRadio app. Now, #1 for podcasting. 570 WKBN, Youngstown.
From ABC News, I'm Michelle Franzen. Investigators on scene of a mass shooting in Cleveland, Texas. Police say an intoxicated man shot his neighbors last night and then fled. ABC's Zorine Shaw has the latest.
Now, all this unfolded right before midnight, and so there aren't a lot of other details right now. We don't know how the gunman was related to the victims or the identities of who passed away. But we do know the victims are between 8 and 40, and the suspect is still on the loose.
Police are searching a wooded area near the crime scene. The State Department issuing a warning for U.S. citizens to avoid a military air base north of Sudan's capital starting today due to the threat of violence. It comes amid a fragile ceasefire and efforts to evacuate more Americans.
The New York Times is now reporting that a convoy of buses carrying around 300 Americans is making its way to Port Sudan, a 500-mile trek that is expected to take roughly 24 hours. All of this coming as the World Health Organization is warning of the risk of a biological hazard at a laboratory that is in the middle of the fighting in the capital.
ABC's Britt Clinett. The Army's Chief of Staff grounding its aviation units this weekend following 2 deadly helicopter collisions. Also, soldiers and pilots can complete additional mandatory training. ABC's M. Nguyen has details.
The order comes a day after Thursday's midair collision of 2 Apache helicopters returning from a training mission in Alaska. 3 soldiers killed and another hospitalized. A month earlier, 9 soldiers were killed during a routine night training flight in Kentucky when their Blackhawks collided. The Army saying in a statement, the safety of our aviators is our top priority.
Author Nora Roberts speaking out after 8 of her romance novels were removed from library shelves in a Florida school district by a group that says it's fighting pornography in schools.
There's certainly not pornography. They're certainly not inappropriate.
She says she's shocked. You're listening to ABC News.
Police in Warren are investigating following a shooting that happened Wednesday. Reports say a 24-year-old man was shot in the area of Bell Street. There's no word on the victim's condition. 65-year-old John Arsufi has been sentenced to 3 years in prison after being convicted of animal cruelty charges. He pleaded guilty earlier this year to charges including 9 counts of cruelty to companion animals. They followed an investigation of a complaint about the condition of the animals in his care. He was arrested back in March of 2021. 40-year-old Matthew Severs faces charges including 7 counts of illegal use of a minor person in nudity-oriented material or performance. Documents say he photographed a minor in a state of nudity on several occasions between January 2019 to November of 2021. His bond was set at $50,000. He's due back in court next month. 33-year-old Amanda Jo Bunner of Salem has been charged in the April 2016 death of her 2-year-old son in Akron. Bunner is accused of murder in the death of her 2-year-old son that happened in the 300th block of Palm Avenue in Akron. Her bail was set at $1 million. 61-year-old Palvo Santiago faces charges of cruelty to companion animals after an investigation by Camel Police that began back in February when a neighbor told them Santiago had multiple starving animals locked in a feces-filled garage on his property. Officers found a dog, 64 pigeons, 20 chickens and roosters, and 6 rabbits. And the Village of Lisbon has decided to table a decision on joining a class action lawsuit against Norfolk Southern indefinitely until council members can receive more information. The village had 8 firefighters that responded to the scene the night of the derailment in East Palestine. Issues under consideration included the establishment of a medical trust fund that could be used by first responders who may develop illnesses in the future from their exposure to dangerous chemicals at the scene. From the Power Chevrolet Buick GMC of Calcutta, Ohio newsroom, I'm Dave Price.
Anywhere.
Well, I have your app.
Anytime.
And I download your podcast.
On the iHeartRadio app. News Radio 570 WKBN.
Mostly cloudy skies for your Saturday afternoon. You may see a peak of sun at times. High temperatures in the low 60s. A chance for rain showers enters tonight with low temperatures in the mid to upper 40s. That chance for rain showers sticks around to wrap up the weekend as highs reach the upper 50s on Sunday. With your Storm Team 27 weather forecast, I'm meteorologist Kyle Alexander.
It's 56 degrees.
The IRS has one job: to collect money from you, the taxpayer. And they have practically unlimited power to do it. You can't hide from these guys. The tax deadline is around the corner, and if you owe back taxes or have years of unfiled returns, it's not a matter of if the IRS is going to take action, it's when. You need to call Rush Tax Resolution. Sean Hannity has been talking about Rush Tax Resolution for years and all the money and headaches they've saved his listeners. The pros at Rush Tax know how to deal with the IRS and win. Whether you're an individual or a business owner who's behind on personal or payroll taxes, Rush Tax has a dedicated team of experts that will fight to protect you and your business. They're A+ rated with the BBB with an incredible zero complaint history. Call 800-299-8077 and Rush Tax will tell you upfront and for free if they can help. And they only take your case if they know they can help. 800-299-8077, 800-299-8077, or rushtaxresolution.com.
All right, welcome everybody. This is the Youngstown Computer Show. Right off the get-go, I want to tell you about automakers and their plans to remove AM radio out of your vehicles. So that's right, removing access to the very AM stations that millions of Americans count on for local emergency information, especially when your cell phone is dead and you've lost power. The AM is your lifeline. FEMA and the first responders across the country rely heavily on AM radio to deliver public warnings and emergencies due to AM's unmatched reach, resiliency, and because it's free. Some people say you don't need radio because you can get alerts on your phone, but it's hardly the same. A text alert on your phone is not a substitute for the what broadcast radio provides in time of need. A one-line text alert cannot take place of a voice on the radio talking to you 24/7 until the emergency passes. And that's assuming the cell networks are even up and running, which oftentimes they're not. When emergencies occur, your local broadcast radio station is there providing wall-to-wall coverage, life-saving information, and a live connection in the crisis. And then radio stays in the aftermath. Emergency responders and everyday listeners call into the station to provide vital, sometimes life-saving information, and radio delivers that information to the community on a real-time basis. In the worst situations, listeners call into their local radio stations in need of direct help, and radio is there to assist them when and where to go for safety. So, folks, it's time. This one hits home. Do you think it's right for you to lose access to 570 WKBN when you're on the road? I need you to make your voice heard. I need you to text AM to 52886 and tell Congress to keep AM radio in all cars and trucks. That, again, is text AM to 52886 and tell Congress keep those AM radios in cars. Standard messages and data rates do apply. So if you take up the fight and make sure AM sticks around, we'd really appreciate it. So when I call the program today, 330-729-9977. You can text me at 333-1570. Now, yesterday was we usually start off the program with Tesla and SpaceX news, and yesterday was a big day for they were going to have 2 rockets that were going to launch from Florida, and one of them was your typical Falcon 9 rocket that we're going to be delivering 48 Starlink satellites to low Earth orbit as part of the Starlink's satellite internet project and / program that SpaceX has going on. The second one was actually a paid gig where SpaceX was being paid to take a satellite dish and deliver it. Now, this was an extremely heavy cargo. And so they pull out the super heavy rocket, which is basically a combination of 3 Falcon rockets that are all tied together. And then you have the satellite that's on top. Now, typically, the 2 booster rockets, the 2 Falcon 9s on the side, would then land and then be reused. Well, that requires some fuel on board so that they can relight the engines once they fall towards the pad and land themselves. And in this case, the vendor is willing to purchase the entire boosters and then let them slam into the ocean because they need all of the fuel for getting them into the orbit where they need to be. So this is one where they're not going to reclaim any of the hardware after this launch, which in the whole scheme of things, you make this kind of delivery cheap enough and lower the entry on it so more companies can participate in things that are put out in space. But this being one of those cases where, we're going to kill a couple of rockets. But honestly, before this, that was every rocket. Every NASA rocket, they didn't have reusability built into their equation. They shot it off knowing that they're never going to see that stuff again. And if they ever did see it again, they retire it and never actually put it back on a launch pad. But there's some SpaceX rockets that are have gone through multiple cycles of being reused. So 330-729-9977. Let's take a phone call. You line one, you're on the Youngstown Computer Show. How can I help you?
Hi, Joe. I'm trying to replace my Microsoft Office software on my new computer. And so I've got a choice of how I want to purchase it. And I wonder if you can discuss some of the pros and cons of taking a subscription, which in this case, Microsoft is also advertising you would get a subscription to OneDrive, some file storage service. Or if I just went to one of the other providers that you could purchase from, say one of the big box stores online as an example. And I'm guessing in that case, they would provide a key where you could download the software, I'm guessing. In the OneDrive case or in the Microsoft case, I believe what they're going to do is provide access to the software online. So in the one case, I'm thinking I would have the application software online, and perhaps the other case, I might have it directly on my computer. Is that about right?
Yeah, and I've done both. Now, your preference, do you like owning the software or don't you mind having a subscription to it?
Generally, I like owning the software because you can work offline. If you get bumped offline by circumstances for some reason, you can still work. And so I generally like that. The advantage of having it in the cloud, so to speak, would be that I suppose you might be able to use multiple devices. I'm not currently a smartphone owner, but I could see where if you had it set up that way, that you could work both on a desktop and then away from that, you could use it on your smartphone if you wanted to.
All right. So I'm going to give you some of the pros and cons on both sides. So just because you get the subscription, you can actually download the same applications down to your computer. You can use them offline. So that you can take that off of your con list. Now, they in the future, I think that their model is going to turn completely over to subscription based. So I don't think that they're going to give out keys or sell keys in the future. So I predict that all of the features that benefit that they're going to scale that out. So if you can buy it and you still like it now, there's not much of a downside, but they will try to incentivize you not to go the buying outright route and go the subscription route because that's really where they want you. So how often do you buy the new Office suite anyhow?
Not very often.
Okay. So you're going to save a bunch of money if you buy it now and then use it for the next 3 years because the subscription would have eaten away at, your overall purchase or, the purchase price for that buying it outright. So if you like buying it outright, you can always subscribe to OneDrive at a different time. So buy it outright and then maybe spend the $10 a month or whatever to get OneDrive because that is definitely a nice feature.
Okay. All right. You give me something to think about. Thank you. I appreciate that.
All right. Thanks for calling. I appreciate it. And most software applications are going to go the subscription route. Okay. Because Microsoft, they made a bunch of money out of, distributing, disc content, DVD content. But reselling you their product on a regular basis is a hard pursuit. And it's an expensive pursuit when there's a lot of competition. I would much rather I would give you a deal, but keep you on the hook so that you're always paying me rather than only sometimes paying me. Because I can remember that I had a couple versions of Office that I used for maybe 6 years. And so I might have spent $300 on it, but over a course of 6 years, I paid $60 a year. And so, or $50 a year, whatever it ended up being. And so if I was on a subscription, I'd probably be paying $30 a month, where I'd be paying $360 per year. So, do some quick math on it, compare it to, but know that this is a luxury right now that may not even exist in the future. The second part of that is really they're not doing disc distribution anyhow. When you do buy a key from a retailer, you're just buying the activation key. So you actually go home, you set up a Microsoft account, you log in with that with your Microsoft account or set one up if you don't have one. And then you enter the code off of the key card that they sell you retail. And what that does is that converts that key code into your actual license. Now, in the future, if you need to download your software again or reinstall it somewhere, you just go to your Microsoft account, look at your software index. It'll be listed there, as well as next to it, the download link to get the software again. So that way you don't have to sleeve a bunch of installation disks anymore. That's a thing of the past, but your Microsoft account can manage that. Same thing with most like Adobe products and Sony products, same thing, where you register it, you buy it, and then it gets lodged into your account, and then all of your licenses. I mean, I've got licenses for some of my Sony products all the way back, 10 years, and I could still download them, install them to this day. So there's thank you for that question. That was a good one. Appreciate it. 330-729-9977. You can text me at 333-1570. This isn't so much tech, but there was a couple of articles that I read over on, I believe it was on Verge and maybe on a couple of the tech publications about consumers and how they are strictly paying attention to reusable things that don't have any that you don't just throw away. So what we did in our house is I was a Pellegrino fiend, and I bought a 24 pack of Pellegrino for, I think it was $17, and I'd have a couple of Pellegrinos per day, and I'd buy 4 cases. So it was good that I was drinking water. It was bad because it was, a little bit more expensive than just buying tap. But I don't like drinking out of the tap, and I just don't like bottled water to begin with. I like the mineral water. But anyway, I was going through a lot of the water, and it was becoming incredibly hard to source when they had their supply chain shortages. So it went up to like $30 a case, and it was hard to get. And I was like, there's got to be a better way. And so I bought 2 things. First, I bought an osmosis, filter for my kitchen, and I installed it underneath the sink, which then I had filtered water, and then I got a soda stream. And so basically the reverse osmosis has a remineralizer, which puts the minerals on. So I got minerals back in. So I have my mineral water again. And then I use the soda stream to give the CO2 and get the bubbly back in there. And I bought a bunch of the plastic bottles. So right now you see me, I got on the stream, I got my soda stream bottle with my Pellegrino substitute. And when I was thinking back through it, the reusability, think about how much, not only in money that I'm saving by doing it this way, but think about all the trash that I would create when I was throwing it away. So this is all, like I said, non-tech, but when innovators and people in tech get a little bit more aware that they could give you the same output, like SpaceX with reusing the rockets, where it's not really a money thing, right? They made it a money thing. They made it cheaper to throw cargo into space. But think about the raw materials that are saved because I'm reusing that rocket like 15 or 20 times. And so it does make sense, and I hope in the future technology will even make that a little bit better. I mean, as we get closer to artificial intelligence solving our problems, I mean, artificial intelligence is going to really pay attention to efficiencies and efficiency losses. So a lot of the mistakes we make as human beings, only because we think after the fact how to make things efficient, they could put everything through the filter of numbers. And having ideas engineered based on where cost leakages and hemorrhages is where I think that they're going to be first used in commercial capacities, and then that affects us on the on the social or regular part of our day. So anyway, just wanted to put that out there, because if these the tech companies have all went very liberal, very advocating in those social issues, that that the tech is going to be used to solve some of those problems, which I think is a brilliant use of tech. Now, I want to be apolitical with my offerings, but a good idea is a good idea, and I don't care if it has been politicized. So anyway, 330-729-9977. Text message says, are you going to have classes this summer? I'm interested in learning about 3D printing. Absolutely. I just had a meeting last week. We are getting the classroom all situated and sorted out. The residential services are going to be connected. We're going to do way more instruction. And I haven't quite figured out the terminology or how I'm going to name something, because I think in the past I made it more like a school. But I want to be the place that when you need to know something and YouTube's not cutting it and you just need somebody who knows more than you that isn't going to make you feel like an idiot for not knowing, I want you to gravitate towards our enterprise because I want to help people get better at things who want to excel in certain areas. And it could be easy stuff. It could be stuff like artificial intelligence. It could be 3D printing. But absolutely, starting probably the second week of May, we're going to start scheduling classes. So I want you, all of the listeners, if there's something that you have interest in learning or knowing, please let me know. And my goal is to have at least one class every day during the week and one class every other Saturday in that classroom. I want to get in. I mean, I was forged out of the training portion of tech where I helped tons of people get their way started in tech. And it's a missing element of my whole business model. And I want to get back to it. So thank you for that text message because we are absolutely doing it. If you want to learn something, please call my office, 330-259-7278. You tell, hit option 1, just leave the message. Here's what I want to learn. Send me an email, joe@youngstowncomputer.com, and tell me what you want to learn. And I'm going to assemble all the topics and I'm going to run syllabus for everything that you guys want to learn. I want you to dream up new things that you want to get yourself into that interests you. And I will definitely put curriculum together to deliver that to you. All right. Thank you for that text message. I appreciate it. And if you want to text me those as well, 333-1570, I'll collect those up too. David, I see you on the line over there. As soon as we get back from this break, I'm going to come to you. So please hang on the line. I want to get to you as soon as we get back. You're listening to the Youngstown Computer Show on 570 WKBN. I'll be back.
The word is out. People are abandoning their overpriced wireless carriers and flocking to Pure Talk for the same 5G coverage, but at a fraction of the price. In fact, the average family saves over $800 a year when switching from Verizon, AT&T, or T-Mobile. Get unlimited talk, text, and 6 gigs of data for just $30 a month. Just dial pound 250 and say, switch now to save 50% off your first month. That's pound 250 and say, switch now.
Hi, I'm environmental advocate Erin Brockovich. I've been fighting my whole life against big corporations that poison our air and water, making people sick. You've seen me speaking out on the madness in East Palestine, and I think you're being lied to. I think you've been lied to and ignored. Friends, we have to fight and stand up for ourselves in this world. You can fight for your rights at eastpalestinejustice.com. If we stand up together, our claims are a message that East Palestine should never happen again. Once again, this is Erin Brockovich. If you have questions, if you are angry, if you are concerned about your health, your air, your land, your water, if you want to know your rights, go to eastpalestinejustice.com.
Bevan and Associates, LPA, 6555 Dean Memorial Parkway, Boston Heights, Ohio, is responsible for the content of this ad.
All right. Welcome back, everybody. This is the Youngstown Computer Show. Right off the get-go, let's go to David. David's been waiting. David, you're on the Youngstown Computer Show. How can I help you?
Hi. I had some children over here, and I set them up browsing the internet, and they were looking at cats, and they were looking at dogs, and they were looking at animals. And I do this all through a VPN. And now, every time I open up a home page, I get all these things about animals. I thought if you used a VPN, you were browsing anonymously.
Well, not your content isn't. Your location would be. And so, like, if you're logged into Google and then you're searching around connected to a Google account, it's collecting all of the data that you're browsing and searching, and then delivering that back to you in the way of ads.
Well, that's interesting. If I go into my bank account and I use the VPN, the bank account comes right up.
Yeah. So, and honestly, it basically takes anybody who wanted to pry into the conversation or the transactions in your bank account, it makes it scrambled. But if you're on either side of the tunnel, it's just like being connected to the internet. There's no, there's no shield there.
Is there any way to get a shield?
Well, you can, when you're doing browsing, you can go into incognito mode, and that will separate your local profile and your Google profile from what's being searched. And that way that'll spare you from, getting ads in the regular mode.
Okay, is that mode in the browser or is it on the computer?
It's on the browser. Which browser do you use? Chrome, did you say?
Well, I use Chrome, I use the Microsoft browser, and also the third one, whatever it is.
Okay, next time they're over, open up Chrome, and then you're going to click on the ellipses up at the top right, and then you're going to pick incognito, new incognito window, and then have them do all their browsing in incognito, and that will spare your regular profile from getting inundated with cat pictures.
Good enough.
All right.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you, David. I appreciate that. And a lot of those, those VPN companies, they sort of market themselves as to having data security and having, eavesdroppers in there. And technically they're right, because it's the people that you're actually using the service from is what are able to connect or collect your data. It's anybody else can't see the data. And that's what it'd be more applicable is that, if you still use eBay and you search something through eBay, just because it's on a VPN does not change anything mathematically between you and eBay. eBay can still see what you're doing. They just know you're coming over an internet connection. So thank you for that. I appreciate it. 330-729-9977. New text message. Joe, looking to buy a 15.6-inch Chromebook for banking, emailing, and surfing. Who do you feel would have a quality product? I am actually on my second Acer Chromebook, and these things have been bulletproof. I've purchased a couple of other options. I had an HP, but I'm telling you that I have one of the original Acer Chromebooks that I use, like you, just for internet browsing. And it's actually antiquated, where it tells me that it's so old that it won't even download any future versions. And it just keeps working. It is so bulletproof. It's not even fun. It's one of the, if you divided what it costs by the number of times that you've used it, this would be in the pennies. I mean, $200 laptop that has lasted 10 years and using it a couple times a day. It's just been off the chart. So very, very happy with Acer. I've used HP, and because Chromebooks do not need a lot of hardware, you could basically throw the least amount of hardware and you still get about the same experience, because most of the stuff you're viewing is all, browser based, and pretty much every computer since, 2000 can do the browser well. So Chromebooks, it's hard to get a bad experience, but Acer served me pretty well. So I'm going to give you that as my recommendation. And that is just Joe's experience. If you do look at the ratings, wherever you're purchasing it from, one of your retailers, be sure to look at the feedback from people who've purchased before and get an idea of where their shortcomings are. Acer was really a good deal because it, when we travel, I can load up a couple of movies. Doesn't store a whole lot, but I can load up a couple of movies and watch some streaming over the Chrome browser. And it was really, it had great sound, no buffering, no video skips. It was just, I was really impressed with it. So thank you for that question. Appreciate it. I hope all of you are enjoying the draft today. I'm a Cleveland Browns fan, and when I was doing a broadcast last week on Thursday, I forgot all together that it was even draft day. And as a Browns fan, that was our Super Bowl. That was the day that everybody marked on their calendar and circled it with red ink, because that was the day that was going to make our team into, contenders. And since we traded all of our draft picks for Deshaun, and we didn't really have a pick until the third round, I totally fell off my radar. So I hope those of you are enjoying watching a draft and listening to me today here on a Saturday, on a rainy, overcast Saturday, are enjoying it and enjoying this program. So I appreciate all of you out there. 330-729-9977. You can text me at 333-1570. Those of you over on Facebook, you can comment in and I'll make sure I include whatever you have to say in the program as well. That's Facebook and YouTube and Twitter and everywhere else. So you're listening to the Youngstown Computer Show on 570 WKBN. I'll be back.
Critical we keep AM radio in all cars and all trucks. Hey, Sean Hannity here. More than 80 million Americans depend on AM radio. It is the backbone of the emergency alert system, and that keeps us safe in dangerous times because when cell and internet services are down, AM radio might be your only lifeline. Now text AM to the number 52886. Tell Congress that we need AM radio in our cars.
Standard message and data rates apply.
It's the Guardians and Red Sox from Fenway Park this afternoon at 4:10. Airtime for Guardians warm-up, 3:35.
I think it's time.
It's time. Time to stay informed.
The time to act.
Stay connected.
The clock.
Check in 3, 4.
The clock is ticking
5 times.
Time is now up.
A day on 570 WKBN.
Police in Warren are investigating after a shooting that happened Wednesday. Reports say a 24-year-old man was shot in the area of Bell Street. There's no word on his condition. 65-year-old John Arsufi has been sentenced to 3 years in prison after being convicted of several animal cruelty charges. He was arrested back in March of 2021. The charges follow an investigation of a complaint about the condition of animals in his care. 40-year-old Matthew Severs faces charges including 7 counts of illegal use of a minor person in nudity-oriented material or performance. His bond was set at $50,000. He's due back in court next month. Documents say the incidents happened between January 2019 to November of 2021. 33-year-old Amanda Jo Bunner of Salem has been charged in the April 2016 death of her 2-year-old son in Akron. Her bail was set at $1 million. The incident happened in the 300 block of Palm Avenue in Akron. 61-year-old Palvo Santiago faces charges of cruelty to companion animals. It comes after an investigation by Camel Police where officers found a dog, 64 pigeons, 20 chickens and roosters, and 6 rabbits. And the Village of Lisbon has decided to table a decision on joining a class action lawsuit against Norfolk Southern indefinitely until council members receive more information. From the Power Chevrolet Buick GMC of Calcutta, Ohio newsroom, I'm Dave Price.
And we have breaking news.
Keep up.
Breaking news.
Breaking news.
With what happens next.
Issue executive orders.
Push through his agenda.
On 570 WKBN. Weather brought to you by Mazda Heating and Cooling and Bryant, keeping you comfortable year-round.
Mostly cloudy skies for your Saturday afternoon. You may see a peak of sun at times, high temperatures in the low 60s. A chance for rain showers enters tonight with low temperatures in the mid to upper 40s. That chance for rain showers sticks around to wrap up the weekend as highs reach the upper 50s on Sunday. With your Storm Team 27 weather forecast, I'm meteorologist Kyle Alexander.
Now 57.
Do you find yourself stuck in a timeshare? Get the real facts about the timeshare industry and your options for cancellation. Chuck McDowell, founder of Wesley Financial Group, has put together a free information guide that reveals the secrets the timeshare industry doesn't want you to know, including the 5 ways to get rid of your timeshare. Call now and get this timeshare cancellation guide absolutely free.
Call 800-311-9595. 800-311-9595. 800-311-9595.
In this week's Marketers Report, Patrizio Spagnoletto, Global Chief Marketing Officer Direct-to-Consumer for Warner Brothers Discovery, weighs in on building trust.
Trust is a really hard thing to build and a really easy thing to destroy, and we have to be very respectful about that. Our partnership with iHeart has really helped us build that trust and that relationship with the on-air talent.
As the #1 audio company, iHeartMedia gives marketers access to the audiences, trusted influencers, and data you need to grow. If you're a marketer, go to iHeartResults.com.
Are your investments going nowhere? Here's a tip that always pays big dividends. Invest in yourself, your talent, your smarts, your skills. Maybe it's time to make that investment and start a career in IT or upskill to boost your current career. At My Computer Career, you can bank on us. We'll help you get the right skills and the right certifications to start or advance your IT career. IT keeps growing, so go with the growth at My Computer Career. The right training, the right timing, the right career. Invest in you at mycomputercareer.edu. Start now.
Hey guys, did you know there's a generic form of Viagra that works just the same, but is 95% cheaper? Just go to 4hims.com/joy. Through Hims, you'll get a free medical consultation, discreet shipping if prescribed, and the process is 100% online. To start your free online visit, go to 4hims.com/joy. That's FORHIMS.com/JOY.
Prescriptions require an online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if appropriate. Restrictions apply. See website for details and important safety information. Subscription required. Price varies based on product and subscription plan.
All right, welcome back, everybody. This is the Youngstown Computer Show. We have a phone call, so we're going to go to them right away so we don't have anybody waiting. Let's go to Nate. Nate, you're on the Youngstown Computer Show. How can I help you?
Hey, how you doing? Appreciate the show. I have two quick questions.
Sure.
They're both dealing with cryptocurrency and decentralized wallet. I'm trying to help an individual whose iPhone 7 went through an upgrade and his Trust Wallet icon had disappeared from his home screen. And, I forgot his 12 words, doesn't know where they're at. But apparently, his phone hasn't been lost. It's just that particular icon's gone. The Trust Wallet icon is gone, and he doesn't have any way to access his account. And I've read where, you can go to Pancake Swap and do some functions there. That was one question. The second question is still with the Exodus wallet, where somebody claimed that Exodus hacked their account. I don't believe that's possible. I believe that they may have malware on their device. But more importantly was the first question about a disappearing Trust Wallet icon off of an iPhone 7. Any thoughts?
Okay, Nate, thank you so much. Appreciate it. And that's one of my main fears with doing crypto and putting it on some kind of device like a tablet or a phone. I trust having it on the computer way more because I'm a little bit more in control of the file system and the data that's on there and whatever. So you're 100% tied to that app in order to have your encryption keys and your source of storage there. So I guess you could try to replicate it. And if you do have you said that you don't have the original 12-word codes to bring, the encryption back, you might get in contact with the provider. Some of those apps give you the feeling that it's your wallet. It's only on your device, but it's only connected to a service that's on the website. That's a Hail Mary. If you've got keys and it was supposed to be on there, then replicating it means you bring the app back in there, but it's not actually going to connect to that same wallet without having those keys to rebuild it. There are some data recovery options for iPhones that if something's accidentally deleted, that you can recover it. I haven't had very much success with it bringing anything, of substance back. But being that the phone is healthy, you haven't had a data loss, it was just more of a disappearing after an update, you might want to give one of those services a chance. I think, I don't know how much was in that wallet, but some of those services are only like $50. And if it works, then you just rescued a bunch of, Bitcoin back there. The other portion of your question, as far as malware, that is usually the case where the encryption's good. Either they have a back end deal where the service that you're going through has a problem with, insiders manipulating things or something on your local. And that's usually when we see loss happening. It's when one of those two things are true. So thank you for that question, Nate. I appreciate it. And speaking of which, I was watching the SpaceX launch last night, and I was going through YouTube on my smart TV, and I searched SpaceX, and I kind of just thumbed over to a live feed, and pretty much all the live feeds look the same. The SpaceX logo on it, the number of viewers that were on there. So I just picked the first one. I really didn't look very much. And so it had footage from the launch. It had the rocket up there. It was ready to roll. They were giving some engineering. They were talking to some of the launch people. And then what popped up on the screen was Elon Musk on stage. A QR code came up on the screen and said, I wanted to let you know before this launch, we're going to allow the people that are watching this to get involved and in investing in the future of SpaceX. It's a private company, but here's your chance. Scan this QR code, send this cryptocurrency here, and we'll tell you that we received it by sending you cryptocurrency here. And they had him on stage, and they had AI that had created the voice that went along with the picture that you were seeing. So it looked like, to the untrained eye, it looked like Elon Musk was saying this stuff. And it was an exact replica of a live stream that was hijacked by someone who was using to push a cryptocurrency scam. And I am certain there were I think there were 19,000 people watching that stream thinking they had the legitimate one. Think about how many of those 19,000 people clicked on or scanned that QR code and fell victim on that thing. So I want to let you know, it's another way that you have to be aware that it doesn't always take malware to have loss. Sometimes there's just enough engineering that will make you do things and give away the keys to the kingdom without ever having to install anything on your machine, just tricking you. And I think I had a customer call a number of years ago. He was staying in a hotel in Chicago, I believe, and he connected his laptop to Holiday Inn, Wi-Fi or something like that. And he started doing his stuff and doing work, and then his computer started acting funky. Well, here he had connected to a Wi-Fi that was set up in one of the other rooms. It was not the legitimate hotel Wi-Fi. It was just somebody scamming off of one of the rooms, hoping that somebody would connect in. And then they took advantage of some exploits that he happened to have on his laptop. And he didn't have any loss, but the computer, they killed the computer pretty good by, damaging some of the operating system, and he had to have it reloaded. But that's one of that was, you want to believe what you're seeing. You want to see that when you go to Starbucks, the Starbucks free Wi-Fi is Starbucks. But it's very likely that some nefarious person is trying to get you to connect to their thing. They take advantage of it. Maybe they grab your data because it's, once you connect to that Wi-Fi, the person who's on the other side of it can pretty much see what's going on. Anything that's not encrypted, they can see what's going on, where you're headed, and what stuff, what resources you're requesting, and so on and so forth. So I just want you to be vigilant out there. What my last caller was talking about, having a VPN, that is the perfect utilization for a VPN. You're in a place, you don't know if you could trust the access point, plug in your VPN. Now you can do your stuff, and the people who are hosting the internet connection can't see what's passing through them because you're encrypted. When they see the data that's coming down the pipe they're extending you, it's useless because you are encrypting all of that stuff. So it's very helpful when you're connecting to public Wi-Fis that you may or may not trust, even if they're named the same, right? Even if they make it look like it's it's a scam, and you just got to be really careful. All right, a little bit about Youngstown Computer. We'd appreciate it if anything in the future you needed some service, some help, a new machine, any business you can throw away. We'd really appreciate it. We are the Valley's tech company, been servicing commercial and residential clients for, 20 years, maybe. It's 2009. No, not quite 20 years, but getting there. But anyway, we have experienced the great loyalty of the listeners of this radio station, and we really appreciate all of the business throughout the years that you have brought us. New era, the post-COVID era, we're rebuilding all of our infrastructure. We have a brand new team. I think we broke the 10 employee barrier, which we've never done before. We have commercial field services. We have residential services. Something's broken, you need data transferred, you want to upgrade hardware, all that stuff is the kind of work that we'd really appreciate you bring to us when your needs arise. The phone number 330-259-7278. That's the number you call. If you don't need anything right now, still write the number down, put it on the side of your computer, and that way when the need arises, you'll have that number right there. We'd really appreciate it if you brought that to us. 330-259-7278. And as I mentioned a couple years ago, we began manufacturing or assembling computers, our own brand of computers, and you guys blew us away. You guys blew us away by purchasing from us. And that's what I love most about it is that, when I have personally, when I could bring my money and spend it locally over a national chain or whatever, I will do that every time because I want that stuff to circulate. I want to support my neighbors. I want to support the area. And so this is another deal where if you don't want to send your computer purchases off to some nameless, tech company, spend it here. We will put together the best machine that we possibly can. It's engineered to stay in the field, which means that it's built for quality. We want to make sure that once it goes out the door, it doesn't suffer any kind of problems, and it is the most consistent build that we've ever done. And so we appreciate it. If you're in the market for a new computer, you can bring it to us. We're not assembling laptops, but we can also purchase those wholesale, sell it to you, and it's about the same that you pay in the stores anyhow. So we'd appreciate any of that business. We really appreciate it if you send it our way. Appreciate it. 330-259-7278, or you can go to youngstowncomputer.com, click on the Book Now button, and then you can schedule an appointment, make payment, pick out the services that you want, and that way you don't have to pick up the phone and call. You can just do it right through our website at youngstowncomputer.com. All right, cool. Thank you. And that's the company that brings this show and has brought you this show for the last, 15 years or so. 330-259-7278. All right, onward we go here. Usually going into the fall, we talk about, the new tech gadgets and the things that are happening. In the spring, we start talking about the maintenances, like, updates and doing backups. I will tell you that in tech, it has been really boring lately. When I look up tech news, like I keep my thumb on the pulse of what's going on and exploits and hacks and all of that kind of stuff. And every time I look at my sources, see what's going on, all I hear about is artificial intelligence and artificial intelligence and artificial intelligence. I'm getting kind of bored that the only thing that tech people want to talk about right now is simulations, AI, robotics, chat GPT. And we still have people that are using tablets and phones and computers that are still having problems. But either that means one of two things. Either the stuff we're using is so bulletproof that people aren't struggling anymore, or that we've just cast the devices out that we used to use. Like there's not many laptops or desktops anymore. Everybody's on their phone, and everybody quite got the phone stuff figured out, or we stopped doing some of the things that were causing problems before. But if I used to take a service list of the top services that we would sell throughout the course of a year, and number one for about 10 years was malware virus cleanups, right? It was 90% of the business that came through our door. And when I look at malware and virus cleanups, it now constitute less than 10%. So it still happens a little bit, but it's less than 10% of the things that come through our door are malware and viruses. And that's awesome. And what shocks me about that is that there was a time that I could not walk in front of a computer and not find some kind of infection, whether or not it's just adware where it did pop-ups or, messed with your browsing. I could walk up to just about every computer and there was some instance that would, if I scanned it off, would come up, or I could remove, and it was infected in some way. And now, barely ever. And so that is, either the hardening of the operating system. Maybe it was less beneficial. It's a lot of work to do that now. And so there are other scams and schemes that are better. But regardless, I'm kind of grateful that things are as boring as it is right now, because that has a lot of meaning. That means that consumers aren't spending all of their tech budget on cleanups. Like every year, somebody would say, I'd visit you for my yearly cleanup after my kids are home from summer vacation or Christmas vacation. I'm coming to see you for some kind of cleanup. And now you just don't have that anymore. Now, hopefully you took the money that you used to spend on that and maybe bought some toys, or, got into some new, added some new applications or things that help you get more stuff done. Because that was really the whole purpose of me advocating for you all to get involved in more tech is to make you more useful. These tools in front of us were much more than entertainment boxes. They could help you get more stuff done, make you more efficient, connect you to more information. And so I wanted you to dig in because you would get the light bulb going off once a week or once a day, and then it would make you confident to get into more and more stuff. It'd bring more out of you than just give you a place to, to waste time. But the speaking of waste time, what a pit of time waste, video watching. And these tech companies, Facebook, Twitter, these social media companies are getting so good at delivering you like the dopamine inducing 15-second videos that are wasting all of your life away. And I watched this addiction to these videos and the time spent scrolling through news feed that with your iPhone will tell you how much time you're spending online. I want you to look at that one time and look at the apps and the hours that you're spending on each one of those apps and decide whether or not you're cool with spending that much time doing those things. And I get a report every Sunday my iPhone sends me that tells me how much time I spent on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and Pokemon Go app and whatever. And I have to be satisfied that that was way too much scrolling that I did. Now, thankfully, I'm busy like 12 hours out of every day. And so if I'm getting any social time in, it's first thing in the morning or before I go to bed. So there's not a whole lot. But still, when you look down at those minutes and you know how much you're sacrificing of your life looking at those videos, can't blame socials, right? Because they're giving you the red meat, the big old chocolate dessert that you're after to look at those things. But you're a willing participant. But break away from it. Maybe put the phone away for a weekend and look out at the horizon. I don't know. 330-729-9977. You can text me at 333-1570. Jack, I see you're on the lines there. I didn't want to go to you until we come back from this break. Give you a couple minutes before the top of the hour there. So, Jack, hang on the line. Appreciate it. 330-729-9977. Text me 333-1570. You're listening to the Youngstown Computer Show on 570 WKBN. I'll be back.
Hammock, check. Arnold Palmer, check. Motorized solar shades, yes, please. Now you can get your home and patio spring ready with brand new custom window treatments from our friends at Blinds.com. And Blinds.com is the simplest and easiest way to upgrade your home with window treatments. You just check installation when you're checking out. Plus, no matter how many you order, installation is always only one low cost. And if you need help picking the perfect blinds and shades and shutters and drapes, well, you can talk to a Blinds.com design expert for free. That helps you make the best selection. By the way, with over 25 million windows covered, you can rest easy knowing with Blinds.com they have a 100% satisfaction guarantee. And you can see for yourself why Blinds.com is the #1 online retailer of custom window coverings. So save 45% off selected products right now at Blinds.com. Save 45% off on selected products. Blinds.com. Rules and restrictions may apply.
Only iHeartRadio gives you access to all of your favorite radio stations.
It's Elliot in the morning. Rod Ryan Show. Check it in.
It's
The Woody Show.
All of the once-in-a-lifetime events.
The 2023 iHeartRadio Music Awards.
All of the best free curated playlists.
All the rock for all the people.
All of the great podcasts for every interest.
This is Freddie Prinze Jr. from the Wrestling with Freddie podcast.
All of the mind-blowing contests.
$20,000.
Awesome. All of your favorite superstars.
This is Pete from Fall Out Boy.
Best of all, it doesn't cost a thing. Download the absolutely free iHeartRadio app now.
All right, welcome back, everybody. This is the Youngstown Computer Show. I'm Joe Danier, owner of Youngstown Computer, and this is your Saturday show where we get to talk about things in tech. So first off the line, let's go to Jack. Jack, you're on the Youngstown Computer Show. How can I help you?
Hi, Joe. A couple security questions for you.
Sure.
Number one, is the two-factor verification, is that almost foolproof? Like if you're, checking on your bank account and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it is almost foolproof. It was so unlikely that I would consider it foolproof.
Yes. Gotcha. Okay. The other question I have is, you were talking earlier about VPN. oftentimes when you go to a site where you're going to buy something like with a credit card, they'll have that little lock icon there and VPN next to it. How safe is that to make a purchase online?
So the lock actually says that it's an encrypted page. So when you process information, the web page actually encrypts the data to the payment processor. So that gives you sort of like a layer of security to know that you're processing it on a page that's connected to a certificate. I think the Google browser won't even really allow you to go to pages that don't have some kind of SSL. Now, if it's just a graphic on the page that says that it is, then I wouldn't wholeheartedly trust that.
Yeah. So it has to be up in the whatever you.
Yeah, the URL bar at the top left. That's where you want to look.
Yes, that's where you want to look. Okay, great. Thanks, Joe. Appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you for calling. Appreciate it. And I want to touch a little bit more on what he mentioned was two-factor authentication, because there's a lot to it. Let me unpack it here got a couple of minutes here. So two-factor authentication is, let's just say I set up a login with my username, a password, and also enabling two-factor authentication. I want to tell you, if you don't have two-factor enabled, do it everywhere. Okay, so here's basically the two methods. The first method is going to be texting, right? So you enable two-factor authentication. Somebody tries to log in. It sends a text message to your registered phone number. With a code, you supply the code, you get to log in. So in that case, in order to fool the two-factor authentication, you would have to clone your phone. So not only would somebody have to know your username and password, they would have to clone your phone number and receive that text message in order to log in as you, because you're going to need both. Two-factor means that you have the password and you also have the code that gets sent to you. Likelihood they have your cloned phone, not likely at all. Now, the second type of two-factor authentication is using an authenticator app. Okay, and it works sort of like the old banking key fobs they used to have, where you'd look at it and it would be a circulating, changing 6-digit number. So when you log in, you supply that number and then you're able to log in. So you basically register the page. It connects your account with the app that's in your phone. And when you go to log in, you have to supply the number that's on that. So think about it like this. It's randomly, constantly every 30 seconds or 60 seconds changing, but there was a seed number. So there's a predictive mathematical equation that makes that number change, right? So that it will change exactly on both sides. So when you set up the account, the page that authored the two-factor authentication has record of what the number should be, and then your phone does. And they're changing in the same sequence and time because they're the same math that goes into it. Started with a seed number. No two people are going to have the same number at the same time. And you'd have to have that connection to know which number that it is. Because by the time you've tried a couple of numbers, it's changed already, which makes it almost foolproof. I like the Authenticator app one better than I do the text messaging one, only for the sake of that. If you did have a cloned phone, you would be gettable 99.9999%. And I made that statistic up, but 99% are going to be hacks that attempted based on information somebody dragged from a database. They don't know you personally. They've tried your account and they have no idea what your phone number is. And if they knew your phone number, think about the second hack that have to happen in order to clone your phone. So, but with the Authenticator app, I feel like that doesn't have the possibility of that happening. I use both and would take either one over having nothing. So I want to make sure that that's abundantly clear. If you don't have it enabled, get those things enabled. Yes, it adds a couple of seconds to a login, but it's totally worth it. I mean, I remember one time I was on my way down to Florida. I was driving the motorhome, and I got a message for my two-factor on my Facebook account. I ignored it completely because obviously someone tried to log in as me, and I got so far that they needed a two-factor, but since they didn't have my phone, they were dead in the water. And I did not fear at all that someone was about to log into my Facebook account. Otherwise, I would have stressed pretty bad because I couldn't break away from driving the motorhome to check. But anyway, that's my story. 330-729-9977. You can text me at 333-1570. This is the Youngstown Computer Show, and we will be right back.
In this week's Marketers Report, Patrizio Spagnoletto, Global Chief Marketing Officer, Direct to Consumer for Warner Brothers Discovery, weighs in on the difficult task of building and retaining consumer trust.
Trust is a really hard thing to build and a really easy thing to destroy, and we have to be very respectful about that. Our partnership with iHeart has really helped us build that trust and that relationship with the on-air talent. The best thing for us to do is to build a relationship with our consumers. And if those consumers have a relationship with the DJs that are on air, then we want to build on that. House of the Dragon, which was one of our most successful, if not the most successful campaign we've ever done for a show, audio was a core part of that.
As the #1 audio company, iHeartMedia gives marketers access to all. Every audience, live conversations, trusted influencers, and the insights and data you need to grow. Not just a media company. iHeartMedia is your access company. If you're a marketer, go to iHeartResults.com.
From the Columbiana Cadillac Buick Chevrolet Studios, available everywhere with the iHeartRadio app. Now, #1 for podcasting, 570 WKBN, Youngstown.
From ABC News, I'm Michelle Franzen. The battle over abortion access intensifying nationwide with court challenges and also on the state level. ABC's Zoreen Shaw has more on separate measures this week up for votes.
Many women in Utah are holding their breath. A judge there is delaying a ruling on whether to implement a ban on abortions. It means if you're in Utah, you can still get an abortion right now up to 18 weeks of pregnancy. Meanwhile, in Nebraska, there was an effort to ban abortion after the 6th week of pregnancy, but that fell one vote short of breaking the filibuster. Abortion there now remains banned after 20 weeks.
In Texas, 5 people are dead in the town of Cleveland outside Houston after a mass shooting last night. Victims ranging in age from 8 to 40. Police are still searching for the suspected gunman who fled last night. Authorities say that suspect was a neighbor, and they're looking into reports of a possible dispute as a motive. With all the recent troubles at Twitter and loss of legacy blue checks since Elon Musk took over the company, users are flocking in droves to a new alternative platform. ABC's Alexis Christoforous has more.
Blue Sky is being called the Twitter replacement, and some people are clamoring to get access. The main difference between the two platforms? Blue Sky runs on a decentralized network, giving users more control over how the service is run and how data is stored.
Now, Blue Sky is still in beta. Invites are scarce. The wait list reportedly 1 million people long.
Filmmaker Spike Lee today remembering legendary singer, actor, and civil rights activist Harry Belafonte. The 96-year-old died this week. Lee directed one of his last films, 2018's BlacKkKlansman. At a remembrance for Belafonte in New York, Lee said he did not tell any of the cast and crew that Belafonte would be appearing in the movie. Belafonte broke barriers as a Black artist and humanitarian. You're listening to ABC News.
Police in Warren are investigating following a shooting that happened Wednesday. Reports say a 24-year-old man was shot in the area of Bell Street. There's no word on the victim's condition. 65-year-old John Arsufi has been sentenced to 3 years in prison after being convicted of animal cruelty charges. He pleaded guilty earlier this year to charges including 9 counts of cruelty to companion animals. They followed an investigation of a complaint about the condition of the animals in his care. He was arrested back in March of 2021. 40-year-old Matthew Severs faces charges including 7 counts of illegal use of a minor person in nudity-oriented material or performance. Documents say he photographed a minor in a state of nudity on several occasions between January 2019 to November of 2021. His bond was set at $50,000. He's due back in court next month. 33-year-old Amanda Jo Bunner of Salem has been charged in the April 2016 death of her 2-year-old son in Akron. Bunner is accused of murder in the death of her 2-year-old son that happened in the 300th block of Palm Avenue in Akron. Her bail was set at $1 million. 61-year-old Palvo Santiago faces charges of cruelty to companion animals after an investigation by Camel Police that began back in February when a neighbor told them Santiago had multiple starving animals locked in a feces-filled garage on his property. Officers found a dog, 64 pigeons, 20 chickens and roosters, and 6 rabbits. And the Village of Lisbon has decided to table a decision on joining a class action lawsuit against Norfolk Southern indefinitely until council members can receive more information. The village had 8 firefighters that responded to the scene the night of the derailment in East Palestine. Issues under consideration included the establishment of a medical trust fund that could be used by first responders who may develop illnesses in the future from their exposure to dangerous chemicals at the scene. From the Columbiana Cadillac Buick Chevrolet Newsroom, drivecolumbiana.com, I'm Dave Price.
The voice of Youngstown, Warren, Sharon and Newcastle too. Great talk every step of your day, so much more than just the news. We're talking, you're listening to 570 WKBN.
Weather brought to you by Mazda Heating and Cooling and Bryant, keeping you comfortable year-round.
Mostly cloudy skies for your Saturday afternoon. You may see a peak of sun at times, high temperatures in the low 60s. A chance for rain showers enters tonight with low temperatures in the mid to upper 40s. That chance for rain showers sticks around to wrap up the weekend as highs reach the upper 50s on Sunday. With your Storm Team 27 weather forecast, I'm meteorologist Kyle Alexander.
It's 58.
David in Pennsylvania writes in to tell us about his experience with Relief Factor. I tried Relief Factor for hip pain and was surprised that it also helped relieve my shoulder and foot discomfort. After taking it for a month, I stopped. And sure enough, the pain returned. So I started taking Relief Factor again, and within a week, the pain was relieved. I'm now taking Relief Factor daily. Well, thank you, David. You know, I've heard your story before. People stopping and then starting again because it works. As you all know, I had trouble with aches and pains, and climbing steps was brutal. Your first step to living the life you love, free from aches and pains, could just be to order the 3-week quick start for the highly discounted price of $19.95. After trying Relief Factor, over 500,000 people have gone on to order more. Try it for yourself and see what all these people are talking about. Go to relieffactor.com or call 800-4RELIEF to find out more about this offer. That's 800-4RELIEF. Live your best life and feel the difference with Relief Factor.
All right, welcome back, everybody. This is the Youngstown Computer Show. I am Joe Danier, owner of Youngstown Computer. This is your Saturday show where we get to talk about things happening in tech. We can take calls about computers directly or the application of technology, tablets, phones, computers. If we want to take national news as well. One thing I want to mention here, this is more of a, I'm a big fan of electric cars. And so that kind of watch to see how the rest of the marketplace deals with, our areas directly connected to battery production. And we've got one electric truck that may be a player sometime in the future. This from CNET says there are states that are beginning to ban gas-powered cars. By 2034, these 17 states are passing legislation to make it illegal to use ICE vehicles on their roads. Those states are Maryland, Massachusetts, New Jersey, New York, Oregon, Vermont, Washington, Colorado, Virginia, Minnesota, and several others. Now, I understand that through legislation, they want to urge producers to create cars that put us on the electrical path. And I think that's a little heavy-handed to make it mandatory. And it might be just one of those things that don't have any teeth and aren't intended to be punitive, but just to kind of show that there's an urging from, to go in that direction, a fierce urging. But I think what this ends up happening, this is just Joe's prediction, is that I think that we've done the incentive, right? And I think that there are enough vehicle producers that are, capturing some of the demand for electric cars, that I think the growth curve on electric doesn't need punitive help in order to get there. I think everyone who carves out their situations for an electric vehicle, and what that means is there are certain people who electric vehicle is not going to be an advantage in their world. Some people are going to benefit from having a combustion engine vehicle. Now, I don't need there not to be any ICE vehicles in order to have a win on this, right? If it's better in your world. So I bought an electric car that is perfect in my world. I drive less than 200 miles a day. I don't go take it on long trips. And I don't have to do brakes or any of the oil changes or anything like that. It works out in my world where I get a full tank of gas every day when I plug it into my garage, and I don't have to go to the gas station as well. I'm willing to pay the extra upfront cost to save myself those troubles along the cost and ownership of the vehicle, right? It ends up being parity about the same, right? I just all those benefits are appealing to me. Some of you don't want to do that. And your purchases and your expression through the car you drive, it might work out better where maybe you take long trips. And now if you have to go with an electric car with substandard charging locations and spending hours more on the road charging up because now you're pushed beyond the range of what the car can produce, that's going to be a problem. And so I think that we should let the merit of the vehicles and the marketplace dictate what we buy and make them both options, and the options that are better for one person, they have that choice. I think that electric vehicles are going to win in more of those categories, which means that more vehicles will be, slowly over that curve, be changed over. Less ICE vehicles, more electric vehicles, and that will be the natural. Now, you get in the future, let's just say the demand's not there. You've carved out all of the people who were super willing. People that wanted the incentives took the incentives. Now you're like, how do we convert even more people? And I don't even think it's time at that point to and go with the penalty route, saying, you know what, you're going to buy one because we say you're going to buy one, and screw you if it doesn't work out in your world. I think the next phase is taking the objections and saying, hey, range standards right now suck, and we need better range standards. Well, Tesla could make a higher range car, right? They could do it. The problem is the extra weight would make it more expensive. So the next carve outs would be, hey, let's figure out a way to innovate into making standard higher levels of range, and then your travelers don't have to fill up, because that sucks to be able to charge, and it takes a half hour to charge, and you have to do it every 200 miles. Where if it was 500 miles out of a battery pack, then on some trips you wouldn't have to charge at all, and then some trips it would be reduced a whole lot less because of the increased range. And then after that one, okay, we carved all those people out. The next one would be the infrastructure, and how can we safe and effectively cut charging times in half? Maybe instead of 30 minutes average at a charging station, you're only 15 minutes charging. And then each time you make it better, then you carve off more and more people. And I don't think we ever get to the point where 100% of the people are in electric vehicles, and I don't think we should, right? But if we can, through sheer merit, get to the point where 90% of the people have chosen electric cars, I think that's the actual win. And let everybody who doesn't want the electric drive whatever they want. And then you can do the same thing with innovating. But I honestly think you take 90% of ICE vehicles off the road, and the reduction of carbon dioxide coming from the whatever's limited is going to put us as probably the least, carbon dioxide producing country in the world. And our bigger fish to fry are going to be helping other countries realize some of those innovations so they can catch up to us, not us at all. So I don't think 0% should be part of our goal. All right, 330-729-9977. Joe, do you need a VPN with a Chromebook? You could, let me explain this again so you kind of know what you're filling here. So a VPN sort of creates a tunnel between your computer and the VPN company. Okay, so think of a portal as, a pipe that goes from you to them. And anything that comes between your computer and them, they can't see the data that's passing through them. They can see that there's data there, but they can't see what the data is because it's encrypted. You can only see it before it's been encrypted on your end and after it's been decrypted on their end. So it's just you and trusting the VPN company. So what that means is if you're sending an email and it has to pass through a lot of other servers, if I'm a mail host and I grab an email that's passing through one of mine, I make a copy of it, I can read it. But if I am hosting a mail server and some encrypted data came through, I see that some data went through, but I can't open it or see it because it was encrypted. And that's sort of the deal. So if you're on a Chromebook, you would still, like, the Chromebook itself is more secure because it just doesn't get infected. There's no malware that really gets to it. Every time you reboot it, it rebuilds itself. It really is just a slimmed down browser-based operating system. And so if you went on a website, then any sites that are not encrypted, it would still fall victim to that, unencrypted pipeline. So you could use both Chrome, and I know I'm round and round just to answer your question. So if all of your objections are that you don't want your ISP or anybody in between to see your stuff, you're still going to need a VPN for a Chromebook. And ExpressVPN, which is an advertiser on the show, I believe they have a Chrome add-in where you can attach it to your VPN and then it'll create a tunnel using the browser. So not done it, but I think theoretically it exists. So thank you for that text message. Appreciate it. 330-729-9977. And back to the battery slash, electric vehicle thing. Some of the objections I hear on a regular basis is that our infrastructure can't support the extra utilization, the power utilization. And it's a fair point. And honestly, when you look at the curve of new vehicles being put on the road, capacity has to be increased. There's no doubt that you get into the future, and where we're at 80% capacity right now, last time I figured it out, every year that goes by, we're consuming about 1.5% more capacity. So we've got about 20 years or less than 20 years, maybe 15 years to increase our capacity before we're over capacity. And so, which means that we either have to create more production or we have to get more efficient so that let's just say for every ICE vehicle that comes off of the road, you have less, refineries, and maybe the refinery usage of electricity can offset what the charging capacity is for or charging usage for getting the batteries up there. So in the end, I think that we're going to, change our way through this, and we're adaptable creatures. We're going to figure it out because it's not happening overnight. We've got years to be able to piece this together and find out if we can make a production plant quicker than 20 years kind of a thing. But it's noted that we are going to need capacity. So that's the long and short of it, is that it's not that we can't do it because we're going to run out like Chicken Little. It's that we got to do some stuff in order to accommodate a new innovation. And I'm fine with it. I don't quite understand the hatred for electric cars. I don't. And I've witnessed it and been a part of it and, seen it personally. And I don't quite understand it. I don't know if it's a threat. I don't know if it's just the, change. People don't like change anyhow. I don't know, if people's jobs are connected to the ice engines, and it's a threat to your livelihood. That would be understandable, but I don't quite get it. So 330-729-9977. You can text me at 333-1570. And then let me tell you a little bit about Youngstown Computer. If you have any computer needs and you would like help out with it, including now training, we are here for the Valley. So that, excuse me, if you have an upgrade that needs to happen, or you've gotten into some trouble, you need something fixed, new memory, new computer, new monitor, Wi-Fi setup, all of that kind of stuff we can handle. And call the number 330-259-7278, and we'll get you set up. Devin runs the residential services and commercial services. We are your IT company. And so typically you have enough computers that you hire someone on staff and they fix all your computers and keep your network running and, roll out new equipment. If you're small enough that you can't really put someone on full-time staff, then you can kind of rent our guys, where you take a IT staff and you bring them in or bring us in, and we will help you as often as you need help. So some of our customers use us once a week. Some of our customers every couple weeks. We're there as often as you absolutely need us. In small 10 computer networks, you're probably plan on seeing us maybe once a month. 20 computer networks, maybe every other week. And the bigger the network, the more responsibilities that you have, the more often that you have to see us. So 330-259-7278 if we can help you out with any of that. Again, 330-259-7278. All right, let's go talk to Tom now. Tom, you're on the Youngstown Computer Show. How can I help you?
Joe, I wasn't going to call today, but I got to tell you, you've intrigued me. As far as the battery situation is concerned, I don't have a hybrid. I haven't really looked into hybrids, but isn't that the Solomon solution?
For sure.
You've got gas and you've got the electricity. I mean, why isn't that becoming more popular by the green people?
Yeah, you would think, and that way on long trips that fills the gap, and then you can get by not having any juice. But for the short term ones, the battery fills in fine. Average person drives 20 miles per day.
Yeah, I mean, I would think that they would be big on that. The other possibility I was thinking of was, is it possible? I mean, I'm just one of these people with a business point of view, as I know you are. If you're going on a long trip, maybe there would be rental stations for batteries, so that you can plan your trip, but you'd have to stop maybe 200 miles at this particular rental station, which would be similar to what the old gas stations or gas stations now, I should say, would be, and then you would just trade in. In other words, they would own the battery, and you're just borrowing it to go to it for 200 miles, and then another 200 miles with another battery, and another 200 miles with another battery, and if the vehicles were set up that way, where the batteries weren't, very hard to get at, then, just as batteries today, you can change a battery rather quickly, then that would solve that problem also.
100%. And actually in Japan, they do that, where they've standardized these battery canisters that when you pull in, you take your batteries out. Let's just say your car takes 5 of them. You take your 5 canisters out, plug them into this wall, take 5 new ones out, plug into that, and you're on your way again within a couple minutes.
There you go. The other question I have for you, and
Sure.
I'm not up on this either, and that is, when I was a kid, a rector set was metal, and a chemistry set had real chemicals in it, and they had electrical kits. I remember an American Basic Scientific kit that my parents got me, and my older brother one time, and it was like once a month you would get a kit, and there were like 9 kits involved, and they just told you basic, electricity, and you build, it'd be photography, it would be everything, but it was very simple, and at that time it was only like $29, but $29 then was probably $200, per kit now. But the point is that you actually learn things from heat kits. Would be another example, building a radio or whatever. Do they have the lawyers and the insurance companies taken over so much? Because I can remember somebody who was a chemist saying that chemistry sets were boiled down to being just doing recipes in the kitchen, so to speak, and because of the lawyers and the insurance companies.
All right, Tom, I'll answer a question when we get back from this. You're listening to the Youngstown Computer Show on 570 WKBN.
Do you find yourself stuck in a timeshare? Get the real facts about the timeshare industry and your options for cancellation. Chuck McDowell, founder of Wesley Financial Group, has put together a free information guide that reveals the secrets the timeshare industry doesn't want you to know, including the 5 ways to get rid of your timeshare. Call now and get this timeshare cancellation guide absolutely free.
Call 800-311-9595. 800-311-9595. 800-311-9595.
Hi, I'm environmental advocate Erin Brockovich. I've been fighting my whole life against big corporations that poison our air and water, making people sick. You've seen me speaking out on the madness in East Palestine, and I think you're being lied to. I think you've been lied to and ignored. Friends, we have to fight and stand up for ourselves in this world. You can fight for your rights at eastpalestinejustice.com. If we stand up together, our claims are a message that East Palestine should never happen again. Once again, this is Erin Brockovich. If you have questions, if you are angry, if you are concerned about your health, your air, your land, your water, if you want to know your rights, go to eastpalestinejustice.com.
Bevan and Associates, LPA, 6555 Dean Memorial Parkway, Boston Heights, Ohio, is responsible for the content of this ad.
All right, welcome back, everybody. This is the Youngstown Computer Show. Before we left Tom on the other side of that break, he brought up an important point first, whether or not we make modular batteries that don't, you don't own your batteries. You're constantly swapping them out, and that way you can transfer them out when you're doing longer trips. The second one was the tools and the toys that are given to kids. And, when I was a kid, we had erector sets and we had electronics kits and we had chemistry sets, things that you could play with real materials. And now you don't see much of that, and things are a lot more safe. We had a whole discussion last week about the things that used to be that you could just not get away with, and the systems have broken them to that point. So to answer Tom's question, like, I have not seen a dangerous toy in quite some time. I can remember when I got my chemistry set that in those little tubes, there were the real chemicals and lots of warning stickers on them, but you got chemicals that if you drank them, you'd probably not be in real great health. And so I don't think when kids are eating Tide Pods, I don't think that they can handle having access to things that they can use to hurt themselves, because they're just not the smartest right now. And I from the liability standpoint, I'm sure a lot of lawyers said, yeah, bad idea. And I can't believe, like, Elon Musk sold a flamethrower retail. He called it not a flamethrower. It was just a, big lighter or something, because they couldn't get away with selling an actual weapon, but he sold a flamethrower. And I can't believe that got past legal, because legal's job is to protect you from liability and lawsuits. And I think selling people flamethrowers, there's only a couple things that you can do with it, and all of them feel and seem a little bit dangerous. And so, yeah, Tom, I'm with you. I think the only kits that I've seen is they still have erector kits you have the metal pieces and you can build stuff. It has levers and gears and whatever. I've seen electronics kits. Now the electronics kit's different. The one that I used to use was a board that had like maybe 20 different sections that had little borders around them, and they had springs, and they would give you a bunch of wires. And then you would follow a schematic and you'd wire in the different components. Now they have snap electronics, where they give you the same stuff, but each of them sort of snap together. So when you're taking, wiring to a light bulb and a battery, instead of running wires, you're snapping a plastic piece from the battery to the wires. So it creates sort of like a grid of plastic pieces, almost like a puzzle. And then you're assembling the schematic based on that. And both worked fine. I can remember spending so many hours with that electronics kit. And the worst was when you took one of the super complicated that had like 100 steps, and you get to the end and you flip the switch and it didn't work, and you had to go back and figure out, like, that was the real stuff. That's what happens in real life, where you can get, 500 lines deep in code, run the code, and it doesn't work. And it's like, okay, start and over, go back line by line, see where you made the mistake. And that's a real example. I started when I first started in computers. I started programming in QBasic. And I would go to Radio Shack, and Radio Shack had these public domain software libraries and also public domain programming libraries. So you'd walk in and they'd have this binder, and in the binder was written out code for different types of programs. So the one I downloaded one time was a game called, oh man, what was the name? Miser. Miser was a text-based game. And so it basically, what you did was you told the character what direction to go. It would go to the next direction. It would load sort of like a hidden list of things that were there, and you could turn the water faucet on just using all text. And so that one I probably worked on for 3 weeks. It actually worked. I had that game forever. Second game was a sprite game. I think it was Paperboy. And I wrote that thing for almost probably a whole summer. So 3 months. And I got to the end and errors all over the place. And it was just awful, because I just come home and write code, And there was really no way until it was done to run the different parts of code. It was just an endless pursuit. I want to say it's like 500 pages of code is what the Paperboy one was. And I duplicated hand keystrokes, and I wasn't a typist. So it was like pecking at the keys to write 500 pages of code. It was awful. But anyway, that's the kind of real world experience you get, that when you write these big projects, and if they don't work out, then you got to go back from scratch and find out what you did wrong. That's perfect lesson in there. But other than that, I don't see chemistry kits anymore. I see erector kits. I see electronics kits. A lot of stuff has been virtualized. Like, I could probably get a chemistry set virtualized, where I can take representations of chemicals, mix them together, and it'll show me on a screen what it would do if you had them in real life. it's no substitute. I wouldn't get all excited about that. I like to blow stuff up, see stuff catch on fire, whatever. That was the cool parts of chemistry, were the demonstrations that you can do to make stuff happen. You go to the science center or the science museum, and when they're doing their demonstrations, they're picking dramatic instances that science creates to get kids interested. I don't know, you just can't get interested on a simulation on a screen like you would in real time. Like when the guy puts on the big rubber gloves, reaches his hand inside the, frozen nitrogen or whatever that is, dry ice, and makes something expand or explode or crack or break or catch on fire. I mean, that was what it was all about. That got me interested in science, watching that stuff happen. So anyway, 330-729-9977. You can text me at 333-1570. Those of you over on Facebook, I want to see David out there. Thanks for tuning in over on social medias. If you have anything to add to the program, be sure to share it in the comments, and I'll read it on air. All right, 330-729-9977. Text me at 333-1570. You're listening to the Youngstown Computer Show on 570 WKBN. I'll be back. Guardians.
It's the Guardians and Red Sox from Fenway Park this afternoon at 4:10. Airtime for Guardians warm-up, 3:35.
I think it's time. It's time.
Time
to stay informed.
The time to act.
Stay connected.
The clock.
Check in 3, 4.
The clock is ticking
5 times.
Time is now up.
A day on 570 WKBN.
Police in Warren are investigating after a shooting that happened Wednesday. Reports say a 24-year-old man was shot in the area of Bell Street. There's no word on his condition. 65-year-old John Arsufi has been sentenced to 3 years in prison after being convicted of several animal cruelty charges. He was arrested back in March of 2021. The charges follow an investigation of a complaint about the condition of animals in his care. 40-year-old Matthew Severs faces charges including 7 counts of illegal use of a minor person in nudity-oriented material or performance. His bond was set at $50,000. He's due back in court next month. Documents say the incidents happened between January 2019 to November of 2021. 33-year-old Amanda Jo Bunner of Salem has been charged in the April 2016 death of her 2-year-old son in Akron. Her bail was set at $1 million. The incident happened in the 300 block of Palm Avenue in Akron. 61-year-old Palvo Santiago faces charges of cruelty to companion animals. It comes after an investigation by Camel Police where officers found a dog, 64 pigeons, 20 chickens and roosters, and 6 rabbits. And the Village of Lisbon has decided to table a decision on joining a class action lawsuit against Norfolk Southern indefinitely until council members receive more information. From the Columbiana Cadillac Buick Chevrolet Newsroom, drivecolumbiana.com, I'm Dave Price.
We're a country of so many voices, yet some still struggle to be heard. Let your voice be heard. News Radio 570, WKBN.
Weather brought to you by Mazda Heating and Cooling and Bryant, keeping you comfortable year-round.
Mostly cloudy skies for your Saturday afternoon. You may see a peak of sun at times, high temperatures in the low 60s. A chance for rain showers enters tonight with low temperatures in the mid to upper 40s. That chance for rain showers sticks around to wrap up the weekend as highs reach the upper 50s on Sunday. With your Storm Team 27 weather forecast, I'm meteorologist Kyle Alexander.
It's 58.
The podcast Founding Son, John Quincy's America, examines the legacy of the 6th U.S. president, who spent his final decades battling the slavocracy, featuring the voices of Patrick Warburton as John Quincy Adams and Nick Offerman as Andrew Jackson.
Was there ever witnessed such a barefaced corruption in any country before?
This blustering has an air of desperation.
Listen to Founding Son, John Quincy's America, a Curiosity podcast on the iHeartRadio app or wherever you get your podcasts.
Are your investments going nowhere? Here's a tip that always pays big dividends. Invest in yourself, your talent, your smarts, your skills. Maybe it's time to make that investment and start a career in IT or upskill to boost your current career. At My Computer Career, you can bank on us. We'll help you get the right skills and the right certifications to start or advance your IT career. IT keeps growing, so go with the growth at My Computer Career. The right training, the right timing, the right career. Invest in you at mycomputercareer.edu. Start now.
Do you find yourself stuck in a timeshare? Get the real facts about the timeshare industry and your options for cancellation. Chuck McDowell, founder of Wesley Financial Group, has put together a free information guide that reveals the secrets the timeshare industry doesn't want you to know, including the 5 ways to get rid of your timeshare. Call now and get this timeshare cancellation guide absolutely free.
Call 800-311-9595. 800-311-9595. 800-311-9595.
All right, welcome back, everybody. This is the Youngstown Computer Show. I am Joe Danier, owner of Youngstown Computer, host, and providing this show on Saturdays to talk about things that are in tech. Original purpose was to get some of you who are warming up to the fact that technology was going to be all around us, and you've kind of grown up with me here and added more and more stuff to your arsenal. A lot of you got your confidence through this show and shared your experiences and helped other users to get started. And that's the good stuff. That's one of the best symptoms of this show that ever was. So I want to appreciate all of the loyal listeners over the years that have supported me, said, hey, when you were out, really, really appreciate and value all of you. Text message says, afternoon, Joe. I don't think so much that most people hate electric cars. They have their place right now, but I think it's more the fact the government and these entitles or entities are trying to shove them down our throat, whether you want them or not. And they're not practical or affordable for a lot of people. That is where the hatred comes in. I don't believe it's the electric vehicles themselves. Good points. And I'm right there with you. I think anything that's forced is going to get that response. I just hate the fact that then the rebuttal for that response had a lot to do with taking chunks out of an evolving technology. You know, when you compare the two, ICE vehicles have been on the road for 100 years longer than electric vehicles, but they're chastised in the media, and the worst parts are told them. I mean, I was watching like a battery pack that exploded, and the anchors thought that this was the most dangerous things. How dare they let these things on the road when they have the potential to burst into flames? And then I saw on local news that a Jeep melted down and the engine compartment caught on fire, but they had no way took the technology of having a gasoline engine be so dangerous that Jeep shouldn't be on the road. And just looking at that sort of like difference between hatred for one and almost like coddling for the other, that's the part that makes me iffy. I agree with both your points that I don't want it, let it be just a tool and let people purchase it. And the second thing is, let's see, it's not practical or affordable. Yeah, of course. And they would have said the same thing about flat screen TVs when they cost $10,000. And so, they were $10,000 and their picture was better than probably your picture tube, but they used parts that, broke easily. And look at this case. It's not as good as my walnut TV that's in my living room. You could have done the same thing to the new product. So it's definitely like what we choose to do to defend against, instead of just saying, hey, government, shut up about telling us what to do. Let's make it be an option and then support the innovations and just, let it wind through the marketplace just like any other product does. Why that one has taken on such criticism has got to be a bigger reason than what you mentioned. And maybe you and I agree that, hey, they're Rolexes. I don't think Rolexes suck just because everybody can't afford one. It's some products are not intended to be affordable by everyone. There's still a product and there's still a buyer for them out there somewhere. And again, same thing with the practical side of that is that my wife drives 20 miles a day to school. She gets 200 miles of range. It's completely practical for her deal. It's a 1-for-1. So we chose to, and I'm completely happy with someone else being able to choose a Honda Civic and that be totally practical for them and in their budget, and everybody's happy because they got exactly what they wanted to. And but I think more people should keep their noses out where it don't belong and stop giving advisement and picking a favorite and then demonizing whoever's on the other side. That's just stupid. And again, that's why I asked the question: is why do people hate them, and why are they threatened by them? And I will open it to you. But thank you for that text message, and completely reasonable. And I'm with you there. Joe, if somebody wants a flamethrower, all they need is an aerosol can and a Bic lighter. Spray starch was good when we used in the service. Yeah, and I guess we can't say that an asterisk on there. Children, do not try this at home. What is that? Aquanet. Yeah, Aquanet doesn't work. It doesn't shoot a flame halfway across the room at all. So thank you, Larry. Appreciate that. This one says similar to a Heath kit, and they give an example. Sells a kit, all the pieces to build an Apple One computer. Thank you for that. And Heathkit, so in that era, they gave a lot of DIY home construction thing where they give you a breadboard and a bunch of circuitry, and you can basically build your own electronics. That's what the Heath board was, or Heathkit was, to build a set of electronics from a kit. So thank you. All right, this is a long one, so I'm going to read it anyway because I asked the question. Electric cars are a complete unnecessary item. They require entire sets of infrastructure to be created. Lithium mining, 80% in China, lithium processing, battery fabrication, new firefighting system. Lithium fires are intense. Lithium batteries have to be built very rugged to help prevent puncture. Lithium recycling is very difficult, if not impossible, in a practical way. Electric cars and trucks are heavy. All of our road ramps and bridges will need inspection and possibly be reworked. Electric cars will be in the Internet of Things and therefore be turned off on you because you just drove yesterday, not today. All this change, and after infrastructure is in place, will not, I repeat, not lower any CO2. It will increase. This is a partial list. So all this change and upheaval for what? A hope to lower CO2 to fight climate change. Do we know CO2 is causing the change? No, some things I know causes climate change. A short time ago, 10K a year. Big screen TVs are not cheap. The data collection pays for the extra money. So yes, all innovations at one point could be thought as unnecessary. So if you had a carriage or, a horse and buggy, what do you need this jalopy? You're going to have to do all these things to accommodate the car. You can make those analogies. Every innovation was not necessary until it proved out, and then it became instrumental in some people's worlds. So it's not a 100% binary deal. There is going to be practical. There's going to be sort of like a ratio of how many people change over, and that way the infrastructure reacts to them. The extra expenses, like that's going to be stuff like I didn't buy a car for any of the CO2 reductions. It's a cool tech car that gave me speed. It looks sexy as hell, and it's something that I wanted to add to my arsenal, so that I did. If it does the CO2 part, cool. If not, I'll still buy one, anyway. But thank you for that. That was a very complete list of your thoughts. And again, all very reasonable. But what about even if you disagree whether or not somebody else should create it, if it doesn't affect you, why demonization? Why is it so important to be critical of it? If it doesn't really affect you, you don't have to buy one. Let's take the government and those mandates out of it. You don't have to buy one now. Why do you have so much displeasure for that? My Civic got 40 to 50 miles per hour. Thank you. Appreciate that. 330. I don't know if you meant 40 to 50 miles per gallon, because that seems like it's more likely. So thank you for that. Those are good text messages. And this topic always brings up a lot of opinions. And I think, when anything gets politicized and it gets added into those, Republican versus Democrat, the conversation gets a little wonky and stupid. Just like I think a couple years ago, we were talking about net neutrality, and there was a big push for people to start treating internet as a Wi-Fi. And I thought as a utility. And I thought the only way you would ever want to do that to anything, commoditizing it, is if you thought it was done innovating, if there wasn't more to do. Because once you lock it in and you take the incentive to keep innovating through it, then it's going to be stuck there forever. And this is the same thing. Everything that we use right now will be better 50 years in the future in different ways. Some small innovative changes, some totally disruptive changes. And there might be a nuclear reactor in cars before we know it. There might be, fusion power in cars by the time we get to the end of this. And you know what you're going to say about that? You're going to say that it's unnecessary and fusion's too dangerous and it's too expensive and only certain people, because it's the same argument over and over again. It's always going to innovate, and it's going to do so with exponents. And you know, I don't want to ever lock in that we're on any of this stuff is done just because it works out for us. That's a little selfish. That just because, you know, we're comfortable now, we want people to stop moving things around and get off my lawn. All right. This text says the market built the infrastructure for gas diesel. Let the market build electric, not the government. Wait, let the market build electric, not the government with my tax money. That's a really good point, because if they monetize the system, and like right now, you could have a manufacturer own all of the infrastructure, and they could be profiting directly from the fueling mechanisms. They could make a pump that only works with their cars. Then they could build or contribute to that infrastructure. So anything that's not part of it. So, you know, the government right now wants electric to be the winner over ICE. And so it's giving incentives by having people build more charging facilities as part of infrastructure. Well, Tesla I don't think it waited for any government incentives to put together its own network, because it makes it exclusive and it charges you a fee when you charge up. So it's a profit motive to do your own infrastructure. Now, will every car manufacturer do their own infrastructure? Well, there's different types of gas stations. There's Shell, there's Sheetz, they're all across the country. Those are all independent, but it wouldn't stop. What if GM said, okay, in order to fill up your cars, you had to set up GM charging stations all across the country, just like Tesla did? So, honestly, this is a good debate, and I like the fact that you're coming from angles that I haven't heard before. And again, all very reasonable things. And none of these are going to be, I don't think any of them are reason to not innovate. These are all conquerable if, we don't make this a team deal where ICE is bad and battery's good. You adjust upwards and say, in order to do this, it's going to drive up XYZ, and we got to solve that and make that right before we go forward. And the same goes on with the same is true with artificial intelligence. We're in the blind creating a disruptive technology that's going to alter a bunch of things. And then are we going to reactively wait till we jack something up and then go back there and say, oh, how'd that happen? When everybody who's from the beginning of the inception of this hypothetically said, here's some dangers and you got to protect yourself. It isn't only because Elon said, hey, let's take a pause on this to talk through this, that everybody's going to take this serious, met with government, said, hey, let's solve the problem first. So when it materializes, we know what we're going to do, not just like, hey, we innovated right up with it. And how'd that happen? I hate when government and regulators could be smart and they choose stupid, they choose ignorance, because the power of the incentive for the money just kills the the rational protections of us and other people. So I don't know. 330-729-9977. You can text me at 333-1570. And last time here, if you want to deal with Youngstown Computer, bring some of your business our way. We will support your business. So even if you don't own the business, take us to work with you. Tell your boss you heard this guy on the radio on Saturday, and he says that he can help support the network, get some of your people off of tech work and let them do what they're really supposed to be doing about the office. Let us handle the things that you're concerned about at the office. So if you're worried that you haven't run backups or your updates haven't been done, or maybe your aged equipment, we'll put these plans together, and then we are your bulldog. Like, we're on your team and we will work on your behalf. Some customers just call us in and say, hey, AT&T is going to be in the same room. We don't want to get sold on anything. We don't understand their language. Can you protect us from being sold into something? And then so we're sitting there just making sure that AT&T, or not to pick on AT&T, but making sure that AT&T behave while they're there, because our customers trust us to give us good information. We're not sellers. Like, we don't give a sales pitch. We don't try to upsell you. We take, when you ask for things, we give you the answer. We're truthful. Sometimes it's not us. Sometimes you'll ask us, like a couple of years ago, maybe 10 years ago, someone said, hey, should I buy a computer from you? and I knew their situation, and they could buy a computer from me, but it made more sense not to. This company over here was better, so we lined them up with someone who wasn't me. I mean, no interest in that. That worked completely against me making any money on it, but it was the right thing to do, and that's how we've protected and treated our customers from the beginning. So if you want to be one of those customers, give us a call, 330-259-7278. Nick will reel you in and onboard you into our system and get your company supported by Youngstown Computer. And we really appreciate it. We love working with all of you. We've found some and made some great allies and friends over the years. This station has been super good to us all of these years and super loyal to everything that we've done. And again, lots of appreciation for everything on this side. So 330-729-9977. Give me a call. We got a couple more minutes in this program if you want to ask any additional questions. I didn't talk much about AI because, like I said, I'm totally sick of what it is. Everybody's talking about it, but one thing I do want to talk about is the chat bot. So a lot of you have used and are using this. If you watched last week in politics, there was an ad that was written completely by AI, right? So the response to Joe Biden's re-election announcement, the commercial was pieced together by AI. And so what you're seeing is that you have this incredible tool that can fish information out on a moment's notice. Like you can literally go to ChatGPT and say, write me a script, a 10-minute speech about football, and it will in 2 seconds have a speech that is 10 minutes and it's awesome about football. So if, a lot of kids are using this to write their papers, and this would have been a godsend when I was a kid, like write a Shakespeare book report. Okay. And I don't even have to read the book, right? I just have ChatGPT bust out a book report and I turn it in a heartbeat. But now educators are also using ChatGPT to grade papers. So they don't even have to read it. They just read it or have ChatGPT read it and gives a grade on it. They also have a way of telling whether or not a paper was written with ChatGPT. So there's these evaluators, you feed it through and it'll tell you if ChatGPT wrote it or not. So you can see like the proof whether or not you are an educated person. If you have ChatGPT, go and get a doctorate and he's better than you and smarter than you, that means that if you used it, you'd probably get that doctorate on this with the same scores. So it's a little game changer as far as access to data and authoring those creative pursuits too. So 330-729-9977. Text me at 333-157. We've got a couple minutes before the end of the show. If you want to get something in quick, have at it. You're listening to the Youngstown Computer Show on 570 WKBN. I'll be back.
I have two dogs, Sam and Bailey. Both are golden retrievers. Poor Sam, he was a mess. Always itching. His paws were soaking wet all day from just constant licking. He had bald spots on his back. I just don't like putting shots and steroids into your dog all the time. DINOVITE.com. Dynovite is nutrition. Probably 2 weeks after he started Dynovite, I started seeing great improvements, and today 99% of his issues are non-existent. It's amazing stuff. Since Bailey has been 12 weeks old, he's been a Dynovite dog, and he has 0 issues today. He won't eat his food without Dynovite. When I get out the Dynovite, my dogs actually salivate, like I'm getting them a treat. They drool over it. Dynovite is the best thing you can do for your dog.
You won't believe how happy your dog will be.
I get my Dynovite from DINOVITE.com.
Tune in Sunday at 10 a.m. on 570 WKBN to Your Money with Leo DiPrilli as he speaks with Vince Capelli. Vince is the owner of Capelli Hardy Team Pillar to Post Home Inspectors. Together, Leo and Vince will talk about the benefits of home inspection and what the process looks like.
This is Ohio Secretary of State Frank LaRose. Here in Ohio, we pride ourselves on elections that are both accessible and secure. So if you're planning on voting in person in the May 2nd primary, make sure to bring your photo ID. To learn more about ID requirements, how to obtain a free state ID, or for voting locations and hours for the upcoming May primary election, visit voteohio.gov and make sure your voice is heard.
Sponsored by Ohio Secretary of State Frank LaRose.
Only iHeartRadio gives you access to all of your favorite radio stations.
It's Elliot in the morning. Rod Ryan Show. Check it in.
It's The Woody Show. All of the once-in-a-lifetime events.
The 2023 iHeartRadio Music Awards.
All of the best free curated playlists.
All the rock for all the people.
All of the great podcasts for every interest.
This is Freddie Prinze Jr. from the Wrestling with Freddie podcast.
All of the mind-blowing contests.
$20,000.
Awesome. All of your favorite superstars.
This is Pete from Fall Out Boy.
Best of all, it doesn't cost a thing. Download the absolutely free iHeartRadio app now.
All right, welcome back, everybody. This is the Youngstown Computer Show. We got a final little segment here, so if you want to get anything quick in the end, have at it. Thanks to everybody over on social media who watched the program. I appreciate you guys being out there. And this question was like, Joe, let me see, Joe, let me read this. Sorry, I put my glasses on. So, Joe, I'd like to get involved in computers. How did you get involved in fixing computers? How did you get started fixing computers? So, like I said, I started writing code when I was younger, and then I got my first Commodore 64. Then I got I forget first my Windows machine was, maybe a Packard Bell. I think I got a Packard Bell. And then in the late 1999, something like that, I decided to go buy computer components at a tech fair, and I built my first computer. And I just spent a couple $1,000s on a credit card, bought all the pieces and put it together, and it was a disaster. I didn't do very well at all. But then it got me interested, and I started really reading into, at the time, I forget what the company name was. It wasn't CompTIA. Maybe it was CompTIA. They released a bunch of books at Barnes & Noble for all of the hardware, the networking, and the software. And these were 500-page books, and I just blasted through all of them. I read everything that I could on computer hardware, and that's when I love tech, but I didn't really know how to fix it other than, just what I knew by trial and error. But it was really, I drilled into that book that got everything started. And I just kept picking up books and reading more and more about engineering. I did the MCSE certification books and went into Oracle and just kept reading and reading more. And I got good, it was layered. So the level of, the stuff that I was interested in led me to the next book. And then I wanted to do Cisco, and then I wanted to do networking. And then I had all of these computers that I was able to touch at the time. So I was playing around in my laboratory at the same time that I'm reading about new stuff, and I got to do it all at one time. And I think gaming helped because it gave me reasons to create super fast networks so that we could do gaming on these networks. And I don't know, it was, my interest drew me towards it. It wasn't necessarily because I thought it was going to be my profession. I just liked doing it. And then I worked for an outfit over in Girard and learned Bob Graham, who was one of my co-hosts here for a number of years. I worked alongside of him, and he knew his stuff. The dude was super smart, and I learned a lot from him. And then, one after another, I kept meeting people that were smarter than I was, and they kept taking me under their wing and teaching me more and more, and then got involved professionally. And after you touch your 1,000th computer as you're fixing it, you tend to pick up on some stuff. So to answer your question is, how do you get started, is you just got to dig your hands in on two-pronged attack. You got to read about it, and you got to do it, even if you have to buy some discarded hardware just so that you can mess around with it, load operating systems, connect networks, try to fix your own broken stuff before you go out there. But I think I'm going to actually put together, we used to do A+ certification classes before. It was a lot of time investments, but we used to have 6 or 7 students show up at those. We take a 5-day class and teach everything out of the CompTIA A+ certifications, and consider doing that again. So if there's anybody out there that wants to learn how to do computer repair, I could totally put one of these together. Let's see. Let me have time to read this. I'll quickly scan this. Joe, the problem is they're forcing you to buy them. How many of these states now by 2030 or 35 are making it legal to even drive a gas vehicle in their state? Like you said, when the automobile came out, they didn't force you to get rid of your horse. You just had the option of riding your horse. in case they were trying to force you to do it. It's because the benefit of someone somewhere. So totally agree with you. Got to keep it open, free market, open to choice. Don't pick a favorite. Don't penalize one side. Don't make one win and one lose. Just let companies do what they do, and the superior products will win. And then we'll hybridize. We'll just use the best of all choices. So thank you for all the text messages on that topic. That was a lot of fun. Anyway, that's it for today's show. We will come back next week at you. Have a great week. You've now listened to the Youngstown Computer Show on 570 WKBN.
Do you find yourself stuck in a timeshare? Get the real facts about the timeshare industry and your options for cancellation. Chuck McDowell, founder of Wesley Financial Group, has put together a free information guide that reveals the secrets the timeshare industry doesn't want you to know, including the 5 ways to get rid of your timeshare. Call now and get this timeshare cancellation guide absolutely free.
Call 800-311